You were listening to a Nerd Room podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Be sure to check out more from the Star Wars Commonwealth on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Room, where we talk all things Star Wars, Marvel, and DC. This is episode number 93, where we'll be discussing Thor Ragnarok. I'm one of your hosts, Tim.
I'm Troy.
And I'm Sunjay.
Gentlemen, we're here to talk the last MCU film of 2017. Completing what will be the last Phase 1 trilogy and is the 17th MCU film since 2008.
Wow, 17.
Yeah, pretty wild, eh?
Is that more than Bond now? Is that the highest, or?
I don't know if it's more than, I think Bond's up in the 20s.
Yeah, because the next Bond is Bond 24, 25, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like number 1 or 2 then. Like there can't be anything above that. This could be 1, 2.
No, I definitely. Like anything close to that would be, geez, I don't even know. Star Wars at this point?
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Maybe, yeah, you're up there with that. But anyways.
Sorry to derail. We're not even a minute in, and Sunjay has really derailed.
No, this movie had a ton of buzz coming into it. It was almost at a fever pitch for this character. For a character that, in the past, hasn't been particularly well received in his own solo franchise films. We reviewed The Dark World last week. We all had an opinion about that. It wasn't the best opinion. I started off very favorable and came around towards the end to not recommending that film. So coming into this, we had that expectation that this needed to elevate the character and more or less deconstruct everything that franchise had built and start anew. And I really think that this had been hyped that way. This is what people were expecting. The color palette, the cinematography, the characters, even the supporting cast all seemed very different from what we had seen in the past. And that's what excited me about this. When you guys were walking into this, like, were you as excited for that, or were you expecting something along the lines of a Dark World or a Guardians or something to that effect? Because if you look back to early 2017, we had ranked this film amongst the top 10 of our most anticipated. Sunjay, you were 10th most anticipated film on that list, so right at the bottom.
Yeah.
Troy, you were midway with 6, and I had this up as my 3rd most anticipated film.
Wow.
And I can't for the life of me remember why, because I went back and looked, and the teaser for this came out in April of 2017, I think, the first teaser. So I'm not sure what piqued my interest that early on in 2017, because at that point, I think we really only had a title. So were you guys looking forward to this? I know we touched on this briefly last week, but I just want to take the temperature before we get into some of the details of this film.
Yeah, no, my anticipation levels skyrocketed after that first trailer. You know, when we got to see, Thor go up against the Incredible Hulk in the gladiator battle. I thought that was so cool, and I was just totally on board to see this movie. And the color palettes right away was very Guardians, but Jack Kirby at the same time, and the movie gives you all of that. So yeah, definitely leading up to this film, I was anticipating it, and I just couldn't wait to see this.
Yeah, I was a little bit more lukewarm. I had some trepidation. I mean, this movie didn't feel like a classic Thor movie. At least it didn't look like it going into it. And it wasn't until the reviews started dropping, oddly enough, and this was up there at 96, 95. I think it's, 93 now?
93, it finished on Rotten Tomatoes.
So it's 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that was what really got me going, because up until that point, I was a little bit worried, because I had heard a lot of rumors floating around online that this movie was only 90 minutes long, and it didn't get very good test scores, so I was a little bit worried, but as soon as the good reviews came rolling in, I was right there with you guys.
Yeah, because there seemed to be some confusion around fandom and around the general moviegoer as to exactly what this is. And that's really to your point there, Sunjay, is that this was a very different looking movie. And from the get-go, it seemed that Marvel had set out to change the status quo of Thor. Chris Hemsworth expressed this early on. They brought in a director, Taika Waititi, that is known for comedies and being a bit quirky, similar to James Gunn, right? They wanted to do something different here. Mm-hmm. And it came down to dismantling this franchise and figuring out where the issues were. And we pointed out a whole bunch of them in the last couple episodes or last couple reviews of individual Thor films. And it seems like, I don't know, maybe they listened to our podcast because they really went through and chopped the things that we had issues with. The scale, some of the supporting cast, the mopey Thor, all of that has changed in this film, and almost changed to the point where it's a completely different genre than we've seen in the past. We got this real Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, almost like Shakespearean Thor in the past. And this is something really different. And that's one question I want to ask right off the top here is, what do you guys think this film is? Where does it land as far as genre? Is it a pure comedy? Is it an action comedy and a comedic drama? Where do you guys put this film in the context of genre?
Yeah, I would say this one would probably be mostly comedy, sometimes even borderline spoof, to be honest with you guys. It's definitely, in my opinion, more comedy than superhero film, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say it's high action with lots of comedy in there, obviously, but this movie has probably the highest stakes of any Marvel film I've seen.
Right.
We got a lot of, saving the world, freeing people and whatnot, and revolutions, being brought upon us here. And a lot of action, like some of the best action I've seen in these MC movies. So I'm going to go total straight action, but obviously lots of comedy in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to fall somewhere in the middle. I'm going to call this an action comedy, or maybe more of a comedy action, if I can flip those around.
A caction?
Yeah. Because like in that whole essence of Marvel films, the DNA of them with the comedic take on a lot of the situations has become something that's really ingrained within each Marvel film, with the exception of some like Winter Soldier, which demanded a much darker and a much more dampened tone. But if you look at the last few movies, Homecoming, Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, this year has been really heavily focused in on making people laugh while enjoying the film at the same time. And I step back because there's a lot of accusations for this film in particular that the comedy actually undercuts some of the more dramatic and emotional moments. And we'll get into the details of that. But for me, I'm not really seeing that, because when I step back and really thought about this, this is probably the funniest Marvel film that I can think of. The movie where I laughed out loud the most. Like just genuine laughter. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there's a ton of action in this film. We get a Thor Hulk fight. We get a lot of Asgardians fighting. There's a lot in here from the action perspective. And yeah, there is some moments that are slightly undercut by the comedy. But at the same time, we are just getting, I think, what we needed from Thor. An uplifted movie. A movie where Hemsworth is able to just kind of go at it. And I complained last week about mopey Thor. I don't want to see that. They released the shackles here and let him do whatever he wanted, and you get a much better portrayal of a character that I think had been dampened by the writing in the past.
Yeah, and the ensemble, because we always said, like, if you go back to Avengers 1 and Avengers 2, that's when he shines the best. And here we have a wicked ensemble of, Valkyrie, and we got Hulk, and we don't have the Warriors 3.
No.
They made quick work of that.
Warriors
which again,
2.
listening to us, yeah, because those guys were done within the first half an hour of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, it came down to changing the status quo, right?
Yeah.
And you look at what they did with dismantling everything around Thor. And as we step through the film, we'll try to point that out. But I think we can talk right here, right now, about Warriors 3. They made really quick work of those characters. Yeah. For characters that had been around since the initial Thor in 2011, they just really, it was a swing of a knife and they were gone. I was actually shocked sitting in the theater that they did it that quick. But they really just dismantled everything. And they got rid of Jane. They got rid of all of the Earth-bound characters. They got rid of Earth for the most part, with the exception of a brief moment with Doctor Strange. So they're able to deconstruct this character and build him back up all within under 2 hours, which is fairly impressive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no Thor expert. I don't read the comics. The only exposure I have to the character is from the movies. So going into this, I thought, this is going to be more serious Thor. And so I was kind of expecting that. And then within even the first scene with Surtur. Are we doing spoilers? Can I do spoilers?
Yeah, we'll say full spoilers here. Like
spoilers. You already told him that the Warriors 3 are gone.
So I guess I'm hoping I'll throw a spoiler tag in the start, but I'm hoping when we say review, everyone knows we're going to talk spoilers.
Yeah, and if you don't, then what are you doing here? No, but come back. We need your viewers. But seriously, the very first scene when he's with Surtur, and they play it out for comedy. You think it's going to be like a serious scene, and then they throw in a joke in there. And I sat there in the theater, and I was like, okay, look, Sunjay, you prefer serious comic book movies. You can sit here and gripe about this for 2 hours and not enjoy yourself. Or you can say, you know what, this movie is going to take a different tone, and that's all right. And I did, and I actually really did enjoy that. But you do have to know that going in, this is very comedy heavy.
Yeah. It's very self-aware, too.
Yeah.
I think, like you're saying, more of a spoof. I think it's more of the self-awareness of the film, that they're kind of addressing some of the issues as they go through this, of this god, of this world that they're trying to build. And they play to that. And I think that is a strength of the film.
Some of these jokes could have easily been in Deadpool 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pulling you off. But it's interesting you have that perspective about this being more of a serious tonal film, because I never really got that from many of the trailers. Like, the trailers sold the movie for what it actually was, I think. But you go back to 2014 when this film was originally introduced as Thor Ragnarok by Feige at that big, the one theater they went to, and they kind of introduced everything, including Civil War.
Right.
So they kind of just hammered these out in 2014. We have a movie that's dropped in 2017, late in 2017. So there's quite a bit of gap there between when they initially kind of came up with the idea of Thor Ragnarok to when they hired the director. It's sometime in 2015, 2016, and then when this actually came to theaters. So I think personally that this film has changed dramatically within Marvel from the initial Thor Ragnarok title drop to the product that we got on the screen last week. Because you look at the original title card even, it's got that dark kind of more of that Thor theme that you're used to.
Right.
And then by the end of this, we've got this wild ass 80s title.
Yeah. Right?
And even the score and all that builds into that. But it's always been touted as this film by Feige as being a very important film for Phase 3, that this is going to do to Thor what the Winter Soldier did for Captain America. And you look at what Captain America, or who Captain America is coming out of the Winter Soldier, he's almost the pedestal character in the MCU now. He got that status and almost pushed Iron Man out of the way. You put Captain America now at the top of your favorite character list. He became a household name. People became very aware of him. I think, as they predicted way back 2014-15, that they have accomplished that. Now, it may be a very different path they took to accomplish that, but I think now Thor becomes part of the big three again. He becomes one of those characters that you can now say is a household name that you can throw on the front of a movie case, you can throw on the front of an Avengers poster, and people will identify that character and be like, I'm seeing that because I loved Ragnarok.
Absolutely.
And that's been kind of their plan since the beginning. And so it's become this like pivotal movie in Thor's history, in Thor's character development. And I absolutely love what they're able to do here and what they're able to take from very early on and say, we're doing something different. They recognize that. Chris Hemsworth himself has even come out and said, I'm tired of this boring character. Taika Waititi made reference numerous times at different cons about wanting to come and help Chris Hemsworth and help this character change his path into something that can be exciting, that can be just what the MCU, the essence of the MCU has built to date. You have all this hype around Spider-Man and Guardians. You never got that for Thor. I think we're at it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the last time we really got a Thor like this was when Joss Whedon was handling the Avengers, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the Avengers, and we made comments about this last week, it's about the supporting cast.
Yeah.
It's about the characters that are around him that elevate the film while Hemsworth is able to do his thing. And Taika Waititi, as a director, allowed everyone to improv, allowed everyone to go their own direction with the characters, and really, from the ground up almost, provide or produce a new foundation for a character that has been around for almost 8 years, right? And we've had 4 different iterations of Thor. But Taika Waititi, interesting director choice. So like I said, he comes from a comedy background. He's New Zealand born. He's done a lot of writing for Flight of the Conchords. He did this movie I've not seen, but I've heard nothing but great things, The Hunt for Wilder People.
Oh, okay.
And so he's done a lot of more indie type films. Nothing on this scale. But they brought him in to change Thor. There's a lot of improv done, or at least from the director's perspective, on this film. Can you guys see that in the film? This whole improv that they're able to do? I guess Hemsworth and Ruffalo and Taika Waititi as Korg were the ones that did most of the improv. But do you feel that off of the characters as you're going into this? Do you feel that the director has dramatically shifted the characters in this film?
Yeah, it feels pretty organic for the most part, it's very similar, and I guess this would make sense because Taika also directed those shorts. Basically Thor between Civil War. So that felt right at home already with what the direction they were going for with these characters. So it didn't take me out of the film at all. It worked very well. I think Chris Hemsworth is actually naturally funny as it is. Going back to even Ghostbusters, he's kind of funny in that movie. So he's always had that humor to him. So they just got to capitalize off of it.
Yeah, and you can totally see that in the film. You can see the actors playing off one another. They know what film they're in. No one is like thinking this is a serious film, so they're doing it like one way. All the actors are kind of inside. They know what they're doing, and it shows, and it works. And this movie could have easily went off the rails, and we could have got Superman 3 or Batman Forever or even Batman and Robin.
Well, yeah. Sorry, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, but going off of that, actually, because I thought we were going to kind of go that route with Kate Blanchett. As much as I like her and I love her in this film, but she could have very easily become like that, mustaching, twirling villain.
Rita Repulsa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it could have gone that route, but they didn't. Like she was awesome in this film. I would say though, going back to the humor though, a little bit sometimes I did feel this movie was kind of a little Michael Bendis like, where the humor is kind of coming at you when you're like, you don't really need it. For the most part, it's pretty subjective though, right? I mean, some people find things funny and some people don't. I thought the overall movie was funny and it worked for me, but there were some parts where I was like, didn't really need that joke in there, but for the most part, it felt pretty good.
You bring up an interesting point because that's one of my biggest complaints of the MCU has been just the amount of jokes that we get. It's,
right.
It seems like it's almost like this movie worked because this was, in my opinion, like pure comedy. But other times I feel like it's too much. And I get it. That's kind of the route they're going. And, all the more power to them. If that's what the director sets out to do, I can't knock a film for accomplishing its goal. So, it set out to be a comedy and it was a comedy and it worked. But in my opinion, I said this many times, I was just like I feel like the comedy.
You're talking about like the criticism that gets about undercutting the emotional moment.
Yeah, totally.
So one example, again, spoilers, we'll get into this in a bit more detail, is when Asgard's blowing up and Korg cracks a few jokes.
Yeah.
I laughed at them. But it really undercut a moment when he's talking about the foundations. Oh, we can rebuild and all this.
Yeah.
So it really undercuts the importance and the emotional stakes of Asgard being destroyed by Surtur. So I can understand where you're coming from on some of those moments, but that would be one of the few. There's a couple in here with Odin that you don't get the jokes at those particular moments. But I do see what you mean. But at the same time, I'm looking for, at least in this movie and Thor, like it's going to be hard to maintain this status quo into Infinity War and all that. So it's going to be a really fine balancing act. And it's going to be about placing Thor with characters that he can riff off of. And I know from the poster, I haven't seen the Infinity War teaser, but from the poster, it looks like he's pairing up with the Guardians, which is a good thing. He can riff with Chris Pratt, Drax and all that. So they're going to have some interplay there that allows you to maintain that character. And I think he can come down to the level of a Cap or an Iron Man and riff off of Iron Man a bit more going forward. So I think, and I agree with you, that undercutting some of those moments doesn't benefit the movie, but it doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't take away from it. And being like you said, that's really the essence of the film. So to have it not there would make it feel a little disjointed. But I don't know. I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm seeing out of all this, because we're getting such a dramatic shift in tone and all that, is that Marvel really let Taika Waititi do what he wanted to do.
Absolutely.
They seem to be releasing some of those constraints that they put on the early Phase 2 films about how these need to direct into other things in the MCU and how they need to mean something for something that's coming out 5 years down the road. And they've kind of erased that and allowed Taika, and this is a quote directly from him, saying that when he first came in, they basically said anything goes. You have to do what you have to do to get the job done and make this character more likable. Now, I'm paraphrasing a bit there, but they essentially said you have the creative freedom to do what you want. And Chris Hemsworth seemed to have a big hand in crafting this character going forward. And so I can appreciate what they're able to do, because for me, this is what the character needed. And we'll get into some of those moments, I think, that are undercut, but I don't think it's at a detriment to the movie in itself.
It's very true, and it is, as you said, a balancing act. It's very easy for this to go off the rails. This one didn't, and I hope future ones don't as well. But this just as easily could have been just a mess, and luckily it wasn't. But yeah, it's a fine balancing act. They're straddling the line right now, and I hope they don't fall off. but they could. So
Well, I think even if we go back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I love the movie. One of my issues was some of the comedy went a bit too far. I didn't like the gold people in the arcade games.
Yeah.
I found that went over the line into something that was almost, like you said, spoofing.
So, yeah, it's like a parody of a superhero
parody
film.
of itself almost.
Yeah.
And so I didn't like that aspect of it. And you look back, and I know you've criticized Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 for this. It's the dance-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's again another moment where you undercut a very emotional scene,
Right.
a very pivotal scene with comedy. It doesn't really land.
Right.
Like it's okay, but I see where you're going. I don't think there's a moment like that in Ragnarok. I don't think they go quite that far.
No.
But they seem to find, this very fine line of comedy, action, and walking really down a path where, yes, we've torn everything down and now we've built this character up. This is our new status quo, and I can live with that. So how did this movie do box office wise? We always like to revisit this, and this one we threw out our predictions last week for. I landed at 106 million. Sunjay landed 130, and Troy with 120 million dollars. So high expectations for this film, given that the original Thor debuted at 65 million dollars, and Thor: The Dark World debuted at $85 million. So quite a bump we were expecting for this film. Like I said, a lot of buzz around it and a lot of good reception internationally for this film. It did fairly well overseas in its first weekend. And it landed on, I think the updated numbers are $123 million domestically.
Wow.
So that's a very, very impressive debut. That puts it 7th all-time amongst the 17 MCU films.
Wow.
So that's just behind Iron Man 2, actually.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Beat out Homecoming then. That's
Beat out
nuts.
Homecoming and
Really?
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah, that is
And
huge.
Guardians or what? What was Guardians?
No, Guardians was 146.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, very impressive debut for Thor Ragnarok. This again puts it in a place where I think we could see a Thor 4.
Absolutely.
Where this franchise is soft rebooting, if you want to call it
I would
that.
say so because the status quo has been completely changed. I
Yeah.
feel like this movie kind of did everything it could to erase, almost in some ways, Thor 1 and 2. Although you really could watch Thor 1 and 2 and this still connects to it. I'm actually surprised
definitely.
how much it connected
Yeah.
to Thor 2, especially us coming off the heels of the retrospective series, The Dark World. You know, they mentioned Jane Foster, being dumped. We see the Warriors 3 in there.
Mutual dumping.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And all that stuff. And then Loki and
The
then
play.
and then Odin
Yeah.
and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So it does really tie into the Dark World pretty well. And Age of Ultron.
Yeah, it actually
Yeah.
recreates one of the scenes from The Dark World. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Matt
Just
Damon.
awesome.
Matt Damon, yeah.
Hilarious. And we always like to refer back a bit to our proxy, which is Rotten Tomatoes, just to give and take a temperature of how this movie does or how this movie is seen by critics relative to the rest of the MCU films. So this landed on 93% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Now put that into perspective, that sits above 1 percentage point above the Avengers.
Wow.
Which I maybe don't particularly agree with. Maybe we can try to rank things later
Yeah.
on in the episode. Iron Man at 94, Winter Soldier at 89, Civil War at 90, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 at 91.
Well, they need to show some more love for Cap, man.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
crazy.
You bring up an interesting point because Rotten Tomatoes today actually just released their top 50 superhero films of all time. So they use kind of an aggregate score using the critic consensus as well as a ranking from like 0 to 10.
Yeah.
So they use that score. They use how many critics have reviewed the movie. So I got the top 10 list here. I'm not going to go through all 50, but let me know your thoughts in the top 10, okay?
I'm interested here because I have some opinions.
Well, that's why the people listen. If you didn't have opinions, it'd be a pretty boring show.
I agree with everything that Troy says.
All right, number 10, Batman the Lego Movie.
Okay, this list already sucks.
That's pretty high.
Number 9, The Incredibles.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Fantastic
The
Four.
best Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Until Fox gets bought by Disney. Number 8, Civil War.
Ah, no.
It's low.
Number 7, Iron Man 1.
Okay.
6, The First Avengers.
Okay.
5, Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, that's relevant for the podcast.
Yeah,
There we
yeah,
go.
that's why I
so
brought
we're
it.
5 on
Yeah.
the all-time
Wow.
list of comic book movies.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
Oh, sorry, superhero films.
Superhero
Sorry.
films,
So
sorry.
movies like Stardust and Road to Perdition are
Okay,
there.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption's not on here.
I hope not. 4, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Ah, come on now.
3, The Dark Knight.
I don't know.
The Dark Knight is 3?
Number 3. The only superhero film to win an Oscar not
That's
in a
crazy.
technical category.
It's crazy.
Number 2, Logan, a film that
No.
you two guys were much maligned against.
Me.
Yeah,
poo-pooed
get out
on
of
that
here.
one.
Yeah.
And number 1, Wonder Woman. Yeah, I'm not even making that up. Just not because I'm a DC guy.
Yeah.
That's number 1.
I don't disagree with the fact that Wonder Woman's good. As we go off from this massive side tangent here. Yeah, but let's maybe recalibrate here. Does Thor Ragnarok deserve to be number 5?
Top 5 status?
Of all superhero films, I'm gonna have to say no right now. I'm gonna still have to revisit that film.
Definitely.
To
It
make
needs,
a
it
decision.
needs a revisit. All of us
Yeah.
here have only seen it once.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it definitely deserves a second viewing in theaters.
Yeah.
And yeah, that to me, when you produce lists, whether it's your top 10 movies of all time, top superheroes or whatever, that are quite fluid. But you should be able to ping a movie within your top 10, right?
Yeah.
For MCU films, we've got 17 of them. I'm going to say this is definitely top 6 for me.
Okay.
Maybe. Pretty fluid list. But of all superhero movies, it's probably close to. It's definitely would probably be in the top 10, I would say. I don't think I'd have Logan in the top 10. I definitely wouldn't have the Batman Lego movie.
No. Yeah, Troy, what do you think?
For the MCU films, this is definitely my top 10 Thor. And general superhero films, it's in my top 15, I would say.
Yeah. I would say top 10 MCU.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time thinking of 9 other MCU films above this, but I'm sure I could come up with
Right.
a list. All time, honestly, this would probably be in the 20s for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's far
I
down.
wouldn't argue that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's interesting perspective because we've all got a slightly, like it's almost we're going down in intervals of 5 here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've got it in my top 10 or so.
Yeah.
And your top 15
Yeah.
and Sunjay top 20.
20, yeah.
It's interesting because that almost speaks to the appeal of the film is you're almost looking through the spectrum of what I would consider fandom or viewership, going from myself through Troy into Sunjay, right? For your preference of film. I'm always been leaning more towards the comedic, fun, more poppy
Right.
comic book movie films where you're kind of almost on the other end of the spectrum of that.
I like it dark.
And I'm the Bendu in the middle.
Yashla and the Bogan.
What he said.
But I like that perspective because I think that that'll bring some interesting discussion on the film as we get into it here because it's a constant thing that is poked at is that like I called it, the DNA of Marvel is very much a film that's a lot like this. And you look at one of my other favorite films that's Winter Soldier and it's on the opposite end of the MCU spectrum. So the ability to capture an audience and kind of shift your genre around to almost extremes is quite interesting. And to see how Marvel is able to take all of that now and push it into Avengers Infinity War. Like the experiment there in itself on jamming together all these genres and all these characters that have become very well formed is going to be interesting. This is even beyond the original Avengers, where you took all of these characters from phase 1 that were more or less portrayed to be fairly grounded. They tried to ground Thor with the magic is science you don't understand. We've got Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, which is more or less related to science. So you've taken a grounded approach in your first Avengers. It gets slightly amped up in Avengers 2. Infinity War, you're dealing with now the Guardians, this Thor, Captain America, which has become more of this darker character, like Nomad, right?
Yep.
And then an Iron Man that's kind of broken a bit.
Yeah.
And then now you're adding in a magical element with Doctor Strange. So there's so much to consider here.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful not to step on the toes of the directors and the writers that have come before you. Because personally, I like this Thor. I like this take on this character. And I want to see more of this. But I'm a bit worried as to how this integrates into the greater MCU now. How does he do against Cap now? How does he do against Iron Man? I said just a few minutes ago that I can see it working, but I can also see it not working.
I'm not too worried though, because like we mentioned, we've seen Thor in the Avengers and he's worked. Like the Avengers Thor has been zero problems. It's only been his initial franchise as a whole, and this movie cleaned that all up. But going forward, you know, we do have the Russo brothers who have been incredible working with all these guys and handling an ensemble. So not worried at all. Yeah.
Do you think Black Panther and Infinity War, that's going to be more serious, those two? Or do you think there'll still be a little bit more comedic?
Black Panther will definitely be the Batman like
It definitely
he
should
was
be.
in Civil War, and again as the Russo brothers.
You almost need that in these big films, right? You
Definitely.
need to have that spectrum of characters to play off of each other. One, we talk about underpinning or undercutting these emotional moments. If you have those more serious characters in there, I think you can accomplish that through your Caps, through your Black Panthers. And you just look at that poster, you look at the group pairings, and it's very much based off of their individual franchises, how they're pairing them together.
Yeah.
Before this, you don't really see Thor and the Guardians working together. Now, you can't see anything but them.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's a match made in heaven.
Definitely. All right, well, we're about to drop into the film here, but before we do that, let's briefly discuss the MCU timeline here. Something I love to revisit with each retrospective, and each time we go back and look at this, I get more and more convinced that Marvel just doesn't care about finite numbers.
Well, going into this, did this one get a prelude book like the other ones?
It did, but I did not read it because I'm tired of reading reiterations of films I've seen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know if this added anything to the greater lore. It may have.
Yeah, maybe Lady Sif was in there. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? That would have been
Some kind of filler.
Well,
But
I heard they tried to get her, but the actress was filming, I think,
that
around the world.
Yeah,
Jamie
that,
Alexander?
what's that? Yeah, there's a show she's in
Right.
with all the tattoos and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a character too. In
Suicide
2015
Squad?
No. You wish. She was also said in 2015, I'm going to be a big part of this film, and essentially she was written right out of this.
Yeah.
Never to be spoken of again.
Nope.
But yeah, so for preludes, I didn't read anything. There may have been something there, but like I said, I'm kind of tired of paying $4 or something that is just a repeat of what came before. But we get right in here, a nice timeline drop from Thor about how this is happening 2 years after the events of Age of Ultron. So it kind of frames this up nicely. It puts us around Civil War, Homecoming time. Well, Homecoming's
Right between there. Right? Homecoming's like 6 months after Civil War. And,
everything seems to be kind of overlapping with each
Yeah.
other, more or less driving towards we need to get to this point in time of Infinity War. So every character coming out of their individual solo films is more or less aligned going into Avengers Infinity War. So I'm happy with that. I was actually quite shocked that they name dropped, or they said a specific time after Sokovia. It was more for effect of how long Bruce Banner's been the Hulk.
yes.
But at the same time, they could have said, I don't really know what you could have done there, but I'm happy that they laid that down. But the fact that they're not concentrating so much on finite and more about events, about this following that, they probably could have just said something along the lines of, I've been hunting through the cosmos for what seems like 2 Earth years, but I don't know.
Right.
And left it somewhat ambiguous, right?
Right. Well, like you mentioned with the Bruce Banner reference there, I think they're doing that because I think they did say a couple. There's going to be the next 3 films, I believe, are going to kind of carry on a story of Hulk and Banner. So we're going to see his story progress a little bit more in the up and coming MCU movies. So maybe they're just kind of planting those seeds there, so you can kind of follow along of his little story being told, because they're not going to do any standalone films obviously with the Hulk, right?
No.
So we're going to see it fleshed out more so in these next movies coming up.
Yeah, well, they continue to leave ambiguity with the Hulk. Is at the end of Age of Ultron, they're like, I don't really know, so we're going to let him in a Quinjet. At this one, Bruce Banner is talking about, if I transform to the Hulk again, I may not ever come back.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see, because we've seen set photos of Ruffalo not in mocap gear.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming at some point he comes back to Bruce Banner.
Yes.
Unless they just paint him green, kind of like the original Hulk,
They just
Lou
dip
Ferrigno.
him in
Oh,
there.
Yeah. He's really been working hard.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a tiny guy. Anyways, I think it's time to jump into the actual review of the film. So, spoilers again. We kind of already spoiled a whole bunch of stuff, so hopefully you have
Thor
seen the
dies at
film
the end.
before. Ooh, maybe. We'll see. But one thing I want us to concentrate on here as we go through this review is looking back at our previous reviews, and we've touched on this a little bit here already, but some of the key aspects of criticism coming out of this. And I don't like to always focus in on the criticisms of a film, but because we were a bit harder on The Dark World than we are with most of our film reviews, with the exception of one film. Had to get in there.
Every episode has been referenced.
It's now become a thing I have to do.
Take a drink for the drinking game for you people at home.
Anyways, what are the few things here? Like, there was a lot of stronger aspects about Thor the Dark World, not so much. But some of our key criticisms were, we wanted to see more Asgard, less mopey Thor, away from Earth, and remove those supporting characters that they had established in Eric Zellwig, Jane Foster, Darcy, and actually go out and explore the cosmos. We have the whole galaxy here open to Thor, and for the most part, with the exception of a few brief moments in Thor the Dark World, we've spent most of our time with Thor on Earth. It seems that people wanted this grounded Thor, and it just didn't work.
No. And better lightning effects. We got that.
You hated that lightning, didn't you? But, and I, again, coming back to this idea of stripping down the character, deconstructing it, and building it back up. with the exception of Doctor Strange, we don't spend any time on Earth. They've really taken apart his look, the tone of the film, the overall exploration of the cosmos, with 95% of this film taking place off of Earth, and really this dramatic change in the status quo. So they were really going for something different here. And to me, all of the criticisms that we had from previous films were all addressed here within the first 30 minutes of this film. And I freaking loved how they did it. Like, they basically just walk right into a new film, a new status quo.
Yeah.
And they do it so quickly and so economically. That's something that I'm always hitting on when we do reviews, is economic storytelling. They didn't need to drag out the death of the Warriors 3.
No.
They need to have an emotional moment with Thor over top of Volstagg, whimpering away that his good friend has died. Like, that's not even addressed by Thor.
You didn't even see him.
No.
But that doesn't always happen,
What a
right?
shitty
Like,
friend.
that's the thing. In some of these times of war, you're not always going to like be there
No.
when that person's taken out, right? So
I'd
it's
have
kinda-
your back, Trey.
Yeah, there
But if
go.
you look back, if you look back into the Dark World,
yeah,
like, some of the most emotional moments was the death of characters, the death of Frigga. And they never really played to much of that, with the exception of the death of Asgard.
Yeah.
But I don't think this film needed those emotional stakes. I think you get it elsewhere. You get it with the death of Odin. You get it with the death of Asgard. But having all these characters die right away, you could have had Thor leaning over top of them and just, like I said, moping around that, oh, I've lost all my friends, I'm out seeking revenge. No, he kind of just, well, he never really
sees
realizes
them.
it, but
Yeah.
he has to come to some assumption, because he's never looking around that ship being like, where's Volstagg?
Yeah.
Where's Lady Sif?
Right.
Where's the other two guys? I
Yeah.
can't remember their names.
Yeah.
So it's interesting they never really addressed those things, because I don't think they need to be addressed.
no, and I think one of them had a good send off. Was it Hogart or some
Yeah.
sort?
The guy with the mace,
Yes, he
Yeah.
had a cool send off. He's pretty good.
he had the best one. The other two guys just get stabbed.
Yeah, 0 lines.
As you do, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, to start off the film here, like most Thor films, we start off with a bit of exposition. Now, this doesn't come from Odin as it has in the past.
Yeah.
This comes directly from Thor. And we know this starts about 2 years after the Battle of Sokovia. And within Age of Ultron, actually, they seem to seed a lot of things. And it's funny, because that seemed to come at the expense of Joss Whedon. The things that they seeded in Age of Ultron for Thor, him jumping into that bathtub, as we've called it, and wandering around and speaking and mumbling about the Infinity Stones. But they address that right here at the start. Again, deconstructing everything they've set up before. They spent a whole bunch of time in Age of Ultron setting up what was supposed to be, and what I'm imagining to be, the Ragnarok that Feige had in mind originally. We had that weird vision with Heimdall with no eyes.
Yeah.
And how he
Oh,
sent them all to
yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
And how he's rolling around that pool talking about Infinity Stones and all this. They talk about all that right here, and they ignore the whole Heimdall thing.
Yeah.
With this, with them saying that Thor has been wandering around the cosmos looking for gems with no success.
Yeah, I love that.
Boom, done. This to me is probably one of the best ways I've seen in an MCU film of them catching up the audience as to what's happened over the last 2 years. You think he's talking to the audience, and at first I was like, wow, this is really breaking that fourth wall. Right? This is
Yeah.
really Deadpool territory that
Yeah.
we've gone into.
Right.
And even from the first trailer, you get that impression too. But it turns out he's just talking to another dude caught in the cage, or another skeleton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Which I think is great. I think you get all caught up here about what Thor's been doing. I've been fighting robots. I went and wandered around the cosmos, found no Infinity Stones,
Yeah, took a
and now
bath.
I'm here.
Yeah.
But as we kind of really jam through this first part here, we find out that Thor has been imprisoned by the fire demon Surtur. Were you guys shocked to see Surtur in the first 3 minutes of this film?
Completely. And I was
Oh,
so
yeah.
happy about it,
Yeah.
because, in the, not the spoilers, but in the trailers, we see Surtur, and we're all like, oh, shoot, that's kind of a big reveal. You know,
Yeah.
that's going to be the end of the movie. And, well, yeah, it was. but the fact is, the matter is, you see the big bad at the very beginning of the movie. You know, I just thought that's so great. And the scale of Surtur is so cool, because it's so neat to see, like, somebody like Thor, his scale, his mass go up against somebody that's huge.
Yeah.
That's that Hercules moment. You know, I just love seeing those kind of things. It's right out of a Kirby comic, really. And I really appreciate what they do here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking in the trailer, you could see Hulk jumping at Surtur.
Yeah.
So I knew he was going to come back in some capacity.
What's the Ragnarok story?
Yeah. So, looking at him, I was like, what? He's here already? Like, what's going on? But then, it all made sense.
I think this scene was just a way to get around calling the film Ragnarok. Because if you look at Ragnarok, the storyline, I haven't read this for quite some time, but there's nothing like this film.
Oh, it's quite dark, isn't it?
It's very dark. You have Loki, Thor, and Odin teaming up, and that's what I think this film was meant to be. So they're kind of handcuffed a bit by the name Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But I love how they played it here. Surtur, to me, isn't really even a villain in this film. He's a means to an end.
Yeah.
And I love that they addressed him right up front. I was shocked. The CGI looked fantastic.
So good.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
really good. The accent on the character was great as well. I love the interplay between the two, and it means something for later on in the film. You know it's going to come back because we saw the trailer clip, but it's a great way to address the Ragnarok story, or at least nod to it, without having Surtur be this big bad behind Hela. In my mind, when I saw the progression of this film from the trailers, I'm thinking, okay, Hela's released by Loki, and then Hela releases Surtur to Asgard, and then boom, it's all done.
That's what I thought.
That's how I thought this was going to be, and this took me right out. I was like, wow, this is going to be good. Fully engaged from this point forward, because we get a great battle scene after this as well, with Thor doing his thing, cracking jokes, and just having fun. Thor, the original Thor, if we call it that. One of the best moments for me is when he's kind of all cocky and he goes into whatever, King Laufey, whatever it's called.
Take on the ice giants?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're having a blast while fighting.
Yeah.
This reminded me a lot of that. That was some of the best Thor, and that was within the first 10 minutes of that film.
Right.
And we're getting a bit more here where he's just enjoying fighting. This is where Thor is in his prime.
Yeah.
And it's great. The interplay there, how he kind of captures the crown of Surtur. He somewhat tricks
great.
him. And
And that's what I love, because I'm a big fan of the game out there, God of War. For anybody out there listening that knows about God of War, this felt just like that game coming to life. And the movie sets the tone right off the bat with the humor. Thor's in the chains, and as he's talking to Surtur, he's like, wait, and he's spinning it around, let me finish, right? I love how they did that in the movie. It's so funny. And from there on, I knew, okay, we're in for a different Thor.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. Sitting in the theater, I'm like, oh, it's not serious. Okay, whatever. Let's just enjoy it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I think this scene too, it serves a lot for the plot, even though it's fairly short and condensed. And we're saying that Surtur, at the end of the day, isn't really part of this film, but he does factor into the end of it. But he does reveal that Odin is no longer on Asgard, and that's why he feels that he can run into Asgard and essentially destroy it. He seems to have this, that is the only thing that he's chasing is the destruction of Asgard. And where he's been before, I don't know, and they don't really give much backstory. You don't really need it here. But he sets up one of the key plot points going forward in the first half of the movie is that Odin isn't on Asgard. And we all know that from Thor the Dark World, because this is another thing that they don't really run with very much, is that Loki had taken the position of Odin and sent Odin off somewhere. You assume that it's going to be Odin, Loki, I'll call him, ruling with an iron fist, but we swing over to him just like living the lap of luxury, built a statue, and having this great time. Like it's not exactly how I imagine Loki ruling Asgard. You don't see the expansion of Asgard. He just wants to kind of kick back and relax and enjoy his time as the ruler of Asgard.
Yeah, what did you guys feel about that part?
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
The play with Matt Damon and Sam Neill and the other Hemsworth brother.
Yeah, playing them. I thought that play was great. That was funny. But I was a little drawn back to see this is what Loki's been doing this whole time. He finally gets a chance to take the throne, and since we just did go back and revisit Thor 1 and the Dark World, it did feel like a different Loki, like pretty different from his intentions before in the other films and Avengers. Just didn't seem like what he would be doing if he had the chance to rule.
Yeah, he probably would have invaded Earth or something.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I'd have to say, out of all of the characters from previous Thor iterations, Loki's been the standout.
Yes.
He's been the consistent one, the one you want to see on screen the most. And in this film, I don't know if he's drowned out a bit by the far superior supporting cast we have in this film, because to me, this is one of his weaker films. He's still good, but he's a bit weaker. And because his character has changed a little bit, and maybe this is the character that you didn't need to change, because this whole first scene, I agree, he probably wouldn't be this. I called him, like in the past, that all he wanted to do was rule. He wanted to be this benevolent god. That's what he's doing here.
Yeah.
Right? He's not ruling with an iron fist. Like Heimdall kicked around for a while, and he's got Scourge at the gate, and he's got these people feeding him grapes, but he just seems to be enjoying it. He's not scheming. He's not being mischievous. We see a lot of that later on.
Yep.
But they seem to just have filled that hole in the plot with this, because they didn't really want to expand beyond that. I agree with you. It seems that Loki should have been out taking over the other realms, firing the Bifrost into whomever, right?
Right.
Getting that revenge for the death of Frigga, right? You never see much of that. And Loki is the one character in here that I'll say isn't as strong as everything around him. He's always been, to me, the character that's held a lot of this franchise up, including Hemsworth, but more so Loki, because he's been this really superior villain. We saw him in Avengers with that too.
Yeah.
Here, he falls to the background a bit more than I expected.
Yeah, he's not as much of a threat, and especially seeing him in Avengers and whatnot, I felt like anybody in this movie kind of had their way with him. Like, he just wasn't as powerful as he used to be.
No.
He's just kind of brought down a couple of notches, and it felt a little weird. And it could just be because we were pretty fresh off of watching the other films. I don't know. But first impressions off that scene, I just felt like, he should be ruling Asgard, like, just far better than what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
At the time.
I can see that. Yeah, that's a good point. Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't actually bring up the negative. Good.
Yeah.
The only other thing about Loki that really bothered me, this is a pure nitpick, is his wig and the makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Several times I looked at that and I've been like, did no one watch this?
Oh, it was Fantastic Four almost.
Yeah.
It was not good.
But the makeup in the first Thor movie is pretty bad too on Chris Hemsworth.
yeah.
Yeah, but this is like, there's no excuse this time around.
No,
Yeah.
this is a really small nitpick, but it added a bit to my dislike, or dislike's the wrong word, but it took me out several times because all I could see was the hairline and the makeup.
Yeah.
Like they made him look really greasy and really pale.
Yeah.
And it just didn't suit Loki. I liked his portrayal in Thor, but that's who he should have been in this film. And we don't quite get there. But again, just a small nitpick, because the scenes that we get coming up here with him and Thor going to find Odin in either Earth or Norway eventually, they're really good. The interaction, the interplay between the both of them is absolutely fantastic, because the two of them together have always been a strong point for this Thor franchise. And we see a lot of that here. Their interplay is fantastic. What do you guys think of Thor and Loki heading to Earth, and how we kind of set up the initial part of this movie with Doctor Strange and the exploration for Odin?
Yeah, this is pretty cool. They're in their street gear and whatnot. They go back to Earth right away when you see like that effect around Loki's feet. I was like, oh shoot, here's Doctor Strange. 'Cause I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah,
Right.
Going into this, and then he's there, the Sorcerer Supreme. My two nitpicks about this whole scene, and I could see why they didn't do it, just because of time. One, we never got the hobo. You and I talked about this, hobo Odin, because we did see screenshots before of him being in the hobo gear. And two, I kind of want to see a little bit more of a fight between the Sorcerer Supreme and Loki. These are two extreme wizards and sorcerers, and Loki's been at it a lot longer than Doctor Strange. So I kind of want to see them go at it a little bit more, but that's just me fanboying out, really. They can't spend too much time doing that kind of stuff, right?
You get a little bit more of the verbal attacks of Loki on Doctor Strange.
Yes.
You think you're a certain...
Yeah, I was falling for 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Like, I thought
that was a good
hilarious.
line. Yeah. I think the banter was great, and you bring up a good point. That would have been cool to see Strange and Loki just throw down magic.
Right.
But my one nitpick, I guess, would be like, wouldn't Thor be a little bit more pissed at Loki for imprisoning his father on Earth? Like, they just played off his laugh. So they're like, oh, Loki, you scoundrel, you captured Dad and taken the throne. He's just like going along with them. I'm like, where's the Thor to get angry? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I just thought that was like kind of an odd reaction.
Yeah, like the emotion there, right?
Yeah, like that's one of the moments, as we say, undercutting the emotion. You expect Thor to just lay into Loki, like punch him or be like, "What the hell, man?"
I don't think that that part of the film is undercut by comedy. I think it's just never addressed.
Yeah,
They just kind of make the leap that Loki is now an anti-hero, and they expect the audience to make that same leap without much exposition or explanation. Right. And yeah, I think from people with continuity issues like myself and you guys to some degree, that leap is a bit harder to make. That's probably one of the bigger leaps that they ask you to make in this film, because it's believable the progression they take Thor through, and Banner and Heimdall and all that, but you don't get that as much from Loki. You almost need a bit more explanation as to why he's become less of what he was before. Like if they had an explanation when he was kind of chilling as Odin, that he's kind of realized his faults and kind of took you through a bit of progression over the last 2 years with Loki of why he's kind of sat back and calm down a bit,
Right.
maybe that becomes a bit more believable. But then he becomes this character again as we go through the film, kind of betraying Thor a little bit here and kind of out for himself. So
Yes.
they play a bit of both sides with Loki, and they don't have this character as pinned down as they have in the past.
Yeah.
So that might be a slight weak point on Loki.
My other nitpick is Loki's just like roaming around New York. I'm like, he just destroyed New York like 5 years ago, and the people asked Thor for autograph. I would have been like freaking out. I'd be like, oh my god, Loki's there. Like, he's literally caused billions of dollars worth of damage in New York.
I don't know if they maybe just didn't recognize. Oh, I guess they recognized Thor, so they should have recognized Loki.
How could you not? Like, he literally destroyed New York.
That's
Well,
right.
that's why Doctor Strange picks him up almost right away,
Yeah,
right? I've identified you as one of the few people that aren't allowed on Earth, type thing. So they get there, but they needed just a little bit more of that development of Loki as to why he's no longer like the Loki we saw in Dark World, or Loki we saw in Avengers, because it is a big leap there.
Yeah.
So, but some great scenes with Doctor Strange and Thor. I love the umbrella, very reminiscent of the cane he used to carry. And when he hammered it down, it
That's
turned
what
into,
I thought. Okay,
yeah.
when he's the doctor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Blake, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they made nice reference there, and I like when he's kind of reaching out for it and it's crashing through
Yeah.
the Sanctum Sanctorum or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. That's what
Yeah,
it's
that's
called.
right.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun with that character here. I also like how brisk it is. It doesn't really spend too much time with Doctor Strange. It's just enough for me. It's enough to acknowledge the fact that Strange is part of this universe now. It's going to be a big part of the universe going forward. And it's nice to see the interaction between the two of them, because that was a fun end credit scene that we get the rest of it here in this film with the beer and the tea and all that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So it's a lot of fun.
Doctor Strange seems like he's matured that much more too, eh?
He's
Yeah,
wearing the yellow
grown.
gloves.
Yeah, he
Yes.
looks different. Was he wearing a different cloak or suit?
Same
or?
thing, yellow gloves.
Ah,
I
that's
think
what it was.
maybe might be developed a bit more. Who knows?
Sell toys, right?
Yeah.
But Doctor Strange does reveal to Thor and Loki that Odin is on Earth and he is actually in Norway. So two of the big dramatic things that have changed, I think, in this film is the fact that they seem to have shifted this part of the film, the Odin, Loki, Thor scene, from New York to Norway. And that goes for the same thing when Hela appears and breaks the hammer. Because you remember the first trailer, she broke the hammer in an alleyway.
Right.
And Taika Waititi has addressed this directly, saying that they need for it to have a bit more of that emotional stake to it. And having him being homeless or hobo Odin, and then Hela appearing in New York, he felt that it just didn't feel right, or didn't address or give the stakes to the situation that it needed to. And I agree with that decision. I think it is much better here in Norway, Earth's home to Norse mythology, so it makes sense that he's there. And he reveals to the brothers that he's dying. And when he dies, it's going to release their sister, which is a new revelation, in Hela, the goddess of death. And for me, I like that reveal. It's kind of a combination of what we saw in the most recent run of Thor, with them revealing that Angela is actually a sister of Loki and Thor. So I think it's a great connection point, and it kind of provides a bit of family tie to this and gives her an immediate backstory, an immediate history that you don't need much to buy into the character. What are your guys' thoughts on this initial scene with Thor, Loki, and Odin? It's kind of an emotional scene, but also the revelation and the appearance of Hela. Do you think this is an appropriate way to bring a villain into this film that is more or less this believable villain for Thor, and to kind of push forward this narrative that's coming at you at a fairly rapid pace at this point?
Yeah, no, I like this a lot. This movie, right, has been doing such a good job of retconning things and introducing you to new things without wasting any time of explaining it from the last two movies. And Sunjay, you'll probably feel me on this one. I really like this because I'm a sucker for fighting like your long lost brother or the firstborn,
Right.
which is very reminiscent of the Wonder Woman
Yeah.
New 52 run, right? And
Absolutely.
I love that story elements that can go on between those kind of characters. So having Thor and Loki have to go up against their big sister, who's like a big badass, I thought that's so cool. And it also shows like another dark past of Odin that we haven't really explored, because he obviously did some stuff with Hela back then. I don't know if she's necessarily has the same mom as Thor. If they didn't explain that, doesn't really matter. It's pretty cool for me, but all around, I love what they did with Hela here. And I gotta say, I'm liking the direction the MCU is doing, that's taking with their villains. I really feel like they're stepping up their villains from Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor. I think this year we've had 3 pretty decent villains.
They're giving them a more deeper rooted connection to the character that are posing. It's not just you are born of the same technology of me, so therefore you are my enemy.
Exactly.
That you got in the early stages here. So, Sunjay, what are you thinking about Hela?
I thought she was great. She makes a good first impression. She destroys the hammer. I mean, how do you come back from that? I think as the film kind of goes along, we lose her for long stretches. We get caught up with Thor and Scar. Is that Scar?
Scar.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking of the Lion King villain. So we kind of lose her. I would have liked to see her be in the film a little bit more because when she was on screen, I was impressed with what I saw. I just wanted to see a little bit more.
I'm right there with you. I like that. That's right.
Yeah, you do lose her for those long stretches. And I think that speaks a lot to what this film actually is. It's less so much a Thor, and there's a lot of action in here, but it's not so much about Thor versus a villain as it is about Thor, the reboot of the character, right?
Yeah.
And even you look at this whole scene here with Hela and Odin, you talked about the Dark Past. They're really rewriting Asgardian history here, right? You take a look at Thor 1, and Asgard is propped up as being kind of the race that everything else is based off of, right? They're the protectors of the galaxy. And then it's rewritten here that actually it has a much darker past in the fact that we only ever had the 9 realms. I love this explanation here that Hela gives, is that Odin and Hela, or Odin himself, decide to stop at the 9 realms and write a fake history, more or less, about Yggdrasil and the connection of the 9 realms. That's only because that's where they stopped.
Yeah.
And this nicely fits into the idea that Asgard is just part of a larger cosmos. Because that was a question mark, right? Why did they keep talking about 9 realms when there's clearly all these other planets out there? Like, how does this fit in to the greater cosmos? Here's your explanation. It's the 9 realms that they took over, that they decided to impose their rule over, and then they wrote history around that. I think that is brilliant writing and how they bring all that together and integrate it into what's going to be a much larger cosmic universe. Really, really well done. And Hela herself, I agree, would have liked to see a bit more of her, but at the end of the day, I didn't miss her when she was gone. It's not because she's not a good villain, it's because I was so engaged with what was going on with Thor. And I thought that was what more the movie was about. She again becomes a bit more of a means to an end, right? We have to get to this point. Here's the character that can really start that or really push the ball down the hill to get going with this story, to get going with what is essentially the destruction of Asgard. So I like the character. Cate Blanchett is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Her motivations are very well defined, and her origin is great. It fits into the Asgardian history. This revelation makes sense, and it puts stakes to the death of Odin too, right? He's not just dying because he's dying. Well, he is kind of, but it puts a bit more stakes to it in the fact that his death releases the villain of the film.
Yeah, so
I like tying those together.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
This is my second to last nitpick for this film.
You're starting to sound like me.
No, I love this film. Don't get me wrong. It's just as we deconstruct this, as we pull this apart, we got to address some of the things that maybe don't work as well. For me, the CG in this scene drove me mental.
For which scene exactly?
Yeah.
This whole thing in Norway. Because they've clearly green screened it all and cut them out of New York and put them into Norway. It looked really fake. It looked like they're sitting on fake rocks. The landscape out into the ocean, although it was meant to bring peace and all this or give you that feeling, it looked really fake.
Yeah.
When she crushes Mjolnir, the background looked fake. And now you impose that with Loki's bad makeup. I'm like, my God, like I feel like they did this in 10 minutes. But it doesn't ruin the scene. And like I say, with all these little nitpicks, it doesn't detract from the movie for me. It doesn't make the movie a bad movie or a worse movie. It's just small things that bother me a little. I don't know if it's because we go in with slightly more critical eyes.
Yeah.
And now you guys that didn't notice that, you're gonna go and see that. You're gonna kill me.
Yeah, I didn't notice because honestly, Cate Blanchett, when she appeared, she just commanded all my presence on her. Like I was just focusing on her, so I didn't really notice that. But now I'm gonna go back because we all know how I felt about Tarkin in Rogue One. So now I gotta go back and
this
pick
ain't
this thing.
Tarkin to me is next level.
Tarkin was Nintendo 64 like, but we'll see.
This has the air of we changed this scene at the last minute, and this is as good as we could get it for the release of the film. That's my feeling on it, and maybe not. Maybe it's, I don't know, artistically it just doesn't look right to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit with what I would consider the very superior CGI that we see throughout the majority of this film.
Right.
Yeah.
From Hulk to everything we see in Skahar and just everything across here to me was next level. Nothing pulled me out. Not even the Hulk. but this did.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't know why. It bothered me a little bit.
They'll probably fix it for home video release because they have the time, and this is
Yeah.
gonna make a ton of money. So they'll probably want to get it right.
Yeah.
You'd
definitely,
hope.
I think so.
You'd hope. Maybe an Ultimate Edition.
Yeah.
I
You
don't know.
wish.
George Lucas isn't running this show, so I doubt it.
So as we step into this next phase of the film, as we've touched briefly on the death of the Warriors 3, the death of the Asgardian army, and kind of the resurrection of this old army by Hela. With her initial plan and her overall motivation is to use the Bifrost to expand Asgard's empire. She wants to do this. And it's at this point in the movie, I think, that you get that final deconstruction of Thor and his supporting cast with the death of the Warriors 3, the death of Odin, and then we move into a phase of the film where, again, we're going to see his whole appearance change. Because the Bifrost is then used to transport Loki and Thor off of Norway, and they get kicked out by Hela as this cool battle within the Bifrost, something new we haven't seen before. But then we end up on Skahar. Or Skahar?
I think it's Skahar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go Scar.
And to me, this is great. This is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
This is a planet that seems to be spitting out from all these different wormholes, all this garbage and junk. It just becomes a very different film here. We start off with what felt a bit more like a Thor film, at least not even so much tonally, but just the visualizations. And then we scooted over here into a completely different film. It feels organic to me throughout the entirety of this. But what are you guys' thoughts on Skahar, the appearance of it, and how we progress from Norway into this part of the film?
Yeah, is pretty cool. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Guardians, obviously, but a bit of Blade Runner 2049. The environment there
Okay.
kind of reminded me a little bit of that. But I thought it was pretty cool. I liked. I didn't mind Tessa Thompson's introduction. It kind of got on my nerves a little bit. Like I thought it was a little over the top. How she's like, she's an alcoholic. She's a drunk. Basically, that kind of was a little too much for me. And then she brought the big guns. That's a little not Transformers. What is it? The
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim.
We saw a preview for that.
There you go. And I felt that was a little out of place for me. I'd rather see her be like the Valkyrie with the swords and come out and do some Valkyrie stuff. But other than that, the planet's really cool looking. Really cool.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point because I don't know much about Valkyrie. So this is the only scene where she acts drunk. In other scenes, she's drinking, but she's a functioning alcoholic.
Right.
In this one, she just falls off
Yeah.
off the ramp. You got to make it slow. You guys don't watch Rick and Morty, do you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, if you watch Rick and Morty, you'll get that joke.
Okay.
You need some showmanship, damn it. But it's kind of neat that they both fell into the same planet. Kind of convenient. I don't know how that happened, but whatever.
That's not a plot device of convenience. As I screamed a bit last week.
And then they all flow through the devil's anus.
Yes. Love that.
I heard that and I said, okay, you can no longer make fun of the jar of pee because the Thor movie has the devil's anus in it.
What?
The jar of pee.
Yeah,
Oh, the
from
jar of
BBS.
pee,
And
even
Hulk
gonna go
butt
there.
in here.
Oh yeah.
Hulk butt. Hulk cat. But Valkyrie. I agree with you. Her falling off the edge of it's a bit much.
Yeah.
But it's I like it because you see a dramatic character progression in her. She goes from this person that's basically given up on life for the most part to someone that puts on the Valkyrie outfit later on and fights for Asgard. So I like seeing that character progression, and to me, it's earned. Like you see her progression. It's not this leap from one to the other. You see her kind of slowly go through this. And I like that. She has that honor built into her. And the fact that Thor's Asgardian, the king or the would-be king of Asgard, it seems to play a lot into her character. And her falling off, yeah, sure, maybe it was a bit much. But at the end of the day, I think the overall character progression really justifies her early on interpretation or iteration of the character. For me, at least.
Do you know what we need to see? A Valkyrie, like the Valkyries versus the Amazons. How sick would that movie be?
There's only one of them, though.
Well, then the Amazons win.
I know it's a bit of a side tangent, but I was kind of confused by the age of like Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie because she clearly fought against like Hela.
Yeah.
But to me, I always thought she was definitely like a bit younger than like Thor, so I was kind of lost there. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But obviously Thor wasn't around, like he wasn't present during that battle, right?
Yeah.
But here's Tessa Thompson who was. So.
It's
that's a good
interesting you
point.
say that because there's a bit of confusion, I think, with the age of everything. Because
Yeah.
they talk about Hela ruling or Hela being with Odin like a millennia ago
Right.
to some degree. And it's established in the Dark World that they only live for about 5,000 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Right.
so for Tessa Thompson, for Valkyrie, maybe she's something different because she's
The
one of
Valkyrie
the
or something.
protectors, right?
Yeah.
But that was one aspect of the continuity that didn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't really know how to place everything. Like, how long ago did Odin and Hela run the show for it to be effectively erased? And when Loki and Thor show up, that they have this picture of Asgard as being kind of this altruistic police of the universe, right?
Exactly.
So there's a lot that happens in what was originally interpreted to be a short amount of time, but it looks like it's been really stretched out there. So they've almost gone away from this 5,000 year thing because they're really specific about that, about addressing that. And that comes down to grounding the character of Thor a bit more. And they didn't really need to do that in the Dark World.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ignore Dark World because we didn't recommend it. And we're just going to say that these guys live for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Right.
And that Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie is quite a bit older than Thor.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't age on Skahar.
Well, that was something they did mention, actually. That's a good point. They mentioned about time is different on Skahar because Loki had been there for like 2 or 3 weeks prior to Thor getting there.
Yeah.
But they fell out of the Bifrost at the exact same time.
Yeah, pretty much the same time.
So it could be something to that effect as well. She's ended up there and time really goes slow or fast or whatever. I don't know.
Stephen Hawking, if you're listening to this podcast, let us know.
Well, another character that's quickly introduced here on Skahar is Jeff Goldblum's the Grandmaster, the planet's ruler, and the man that puts together the contest of champions, which I love that.
That
I
was
love
a
the
great,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, just fantastic. What do you think of Goldblum here?
Well, Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum. He's been in some of the best movies of all time. You got The Fly, you got Jurassic Park 2. Those are the only 3 movies I know.
Grand Budapest Hotel is in
Yeah.
Independence Day?
Oh, yeah, Independence
that one,
Day.
yeah.
that was a miss by my part. He's great. I don't know anything about the Grandmaster. The only thing I've seen him in is Justice League vs. Avengers, so
Yeah.
I don't know how accurate that is. I always thought he was more of a serious character. I guess I was wrong. I don't know. But I thought he played the part well. He's very skeezy. Like, you just kind of wanted to punch him in the face. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about the Grandmaster. All I know, or at least I thought I knew, is he's the brother of the Collector.
Yeah,
I
he's an
believe.
elder of the universe. type
Right.
thing.
Yeah, but he was fine. I mean, he worked for me. He was very much just like the character he always plays, pretty much. So
It's Jeff
Yeah.
Goldblum doing an impression of Jeff Goldblum while playing the Grandmaster.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It's essentially what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I freaking love it. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Goldblum, his stammers, his stutters, and the way he delivers lines. Brilliant. Fits this role, fits this world,
Yeah.
and he plays this crazy ass dictator of this world, right?
Walt Disney, like too, a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you get that. Funny enough, you mentioned that you get this really weird Willy Wonka scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the middle of this
Yeah.
film,
Right.
At the start, right? And that, to me, that serves so much of this. And you've got him playing the DJ stuff, and he's kind of weird, and the end
Felt like a
credits scene-
millennial.
a little bit.
Not to brag on millennials. I have nothing against y'all. But he seemed like a caricature of a millennial. Like, if you ask like a 60-year-old what a millennial would be, they'd be like, that's him.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Which is like the complete opposite of millennial.
But yeah, he's great in this. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this character because clearly we're going to get more of him. The end of the film we won't really get into this end credit scene because it's kind of a bit of a throwaway, but it's essentially Jeff Goldblum rolling out of this thing talking to some of the rebels, right?
Yeah.
Very similar and very reminiscent of how the Collector in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 end credit scene ends with him sitting amongst the rubble of his collection.
Oh,
you get a very
yeah.
similar thing there. And Jeff
Right.
Goldblum, the character of Grandmaster, is actually in the end credits, like the credits themselves in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
That's right.
As they're going down the side scroll, you're seeing the different people dancing, and Goldblum is one of the people dancing.
That's right.
And so this leads me into my very last nitpick of this film.
Oh.
You're here.
I didn't see that coming there. I didn't see
It's,
it.
Yeah.
it's not Goldblum,
Oh.
and it's just because we're talking about Guardians. They really missed an opportunity
Oh,
to not include 1 or 2 or 3 of the Guardians characters sitting up in the crowd. Like, I was waiting for that because Goldblum was in that end credit thing in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I thought to myself, okay, we're going to pan to Chris Pratt or Drax or Rocket or someone sitting up in the crowd betting on Hulk. And that may connect up some of this Infinity War stuff.
That'd been really cool.
And because the Planet Hulk cartoon, which you get Korg and Hulk in it as well, and it's an adaptation of that, is you have cameos of the Guardians. They're just sitting in the crowd. They don't say anything or do anything, but they are just sitting in the crowd. So I thought it's more my fault that this isn't a fault of the film. This is more me anticipating something and wanting to see a bit more of a connection point between the Guardians and Thor. And I thought this would have been a way to do it, is just have Drax turn to him and say, I'm betting on the green guy, or something like that, right? I think that would have been a really cool way to integrate the Guardians in this universe that is really taking a lot of cues from what James Gunn built and just referencing that directly in this film. That's the last of my nitpicks. That's the last I'll say. And that's not so much the fault of the film. That's my own fault for setting those expectations. But another character that's introduced here fairly early on, once we get into Skahar, is Korg. Now, this character we spoke a bit about last week because we have seen these, I think they're called Koran, or not Koran, that's the wrong word.
Things.
Cronin. Koran is not something very different than this. Yeah, Cronin. And Thor makes a direct reference to this. He fights one at the start of Thor the Dark World. Yeah. We see two of them in Guardians of the Galaxy, again linking up this film with Guardians. But to me, Korg, one of my favorite characters in the film. I freaking love this guy. CGI, played by director Taika Waititi. Did you guys enjoy Korg throughout this film? He was your comic relief in a film that was full of comedy.
Yeah, no, he was hilarious. His accent, man, was killing me. Yeah, it was funny. His CG was great as well. I had just enough of him though. It's perfect. Like, I'm really glad. I really like the direction they chose to expand on this character by just giving us just enough. If it was any bit more, I would have been a little taken away, but they gave us exactly the amount that we needed. And I loved it. I thought he was great.
Yeah, I thought he was great as well. I don't know if you guys caught this reference because you don't really watch horror films, but one of Taika Waititi's first films was What We Do in the Shadows, which follows around vampires trying to do a reality TV show. And so he mentions about the 3 wooden stake prong. Yeah. He said, it's only good if you got vampires huddled together. So that was a nice callback to one of his earlier films.
I heard that. I was like, okay, like stakes.
That's kind of random, but yeah. Okay. I thought he was great. Yeah. He delivered some of the best lines, like trying to start a revolution.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And I sent an invitation, and my mother and my boyfriend showed up. It's a character that I didn't expect a lot from. Mm-hmm. I didn't think he'd be in the film as much as he was, and it's all about the accent, the delivery of the lines, which the majority of them from reading interviews with Taika Waititi are all ad-libbed. They're kind of in there. Wow. And like when he's talking to Thor about the hammer, and Thor's going on about the hammer and all this, and it pulled you off, and like they're just so well timed jokes. And there's one or two, like we mentioned at the start, about undercutting the emotional moment of the destruction of Asgard, but outside of that, I freaking love this character. Every line that comes out of his mouth, hey, we're getting on this big ship, do you want to come? It's all really
he's huge,
good.
Right? But he has this little man's voice going on.
Oh, totally.
And he's talking about Doug. The new Doug.
Yeah, that was great. Do you think that was just the director writing himself in the movie, so in case they don't bring him back, he still gets a paycheck in Thor 4?
Well, he's outright said that he writes himself in every one of his own films.
Oh, okay. So he's like Kevin Smith.
So he was trying to find a character, and originally I don't think Korg had that many lines in the film. But I guess as they got going and as they got riffing with Hemsworth and him, that they really liked this character and started to kind of pull him more into the film. And so you see a character that went from almost nothing to having a fairly substantial part in the film as a supporting character. And I'm glad that they did, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. I'm like the fact that he's on the ship with them at the end is telling me that we could see him in Infinity War, and just having him pop up and have some interaction with someone like Drax. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that. Taking these characters that I think are all fantastic and having them integrate and have dialogue with other characters that might not, from your initial viewing, have anything really in common or have great interaction with them, but you take what Taika Waititi was able to do here with every character he interacted with and expand that into characters we know. There's a lot of potential there. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to that.
I thought there's a missed opportunity. They really should have went with the Michael Chiklis, the Thing from the original Fantastic Four, and used that as Korg's suit.
There you go. Integration.
I liked his buddy too. Was it Mick or Mike?
Mike or something.
I thought he was great too.
The arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arms.
He's always ready to go.
Yeah.
So good. But it's at this point in the film when we get the gladiatorial battle that we had been anticipating for quite some time. We knew that Planet Hulk was going to be well integrated into this film, and to a degree, it's more so than I expected. And this is our only opportunity, probably, to ever get a Planet Hulk storyline. And it's fantastic. Again, I'm going to use that word a lot in the back half of this film. But the CGI on the Hulk looks awesome. The whole battle and the fact that we're getting more of a smart Hulk in this, a very big status quo change for that character.
No, this one's tough for me. Obviously, this scene is awesome. Probably one of my favorites in the movie. But you know what? I kind of feel like we kind of got ripped off here, because we didn't get ripped off, but basically when you go back to the trailer, and I see why they did this in the trailer, they had to sell this movie, and you had to show us, the clip between Hulk and Thor meeting up. But I feel, man, if we didn't know Hulk was in this film and we got to witness this whole scene in the movie, it would have just blown our minds. Like, this whole hype of like, who is this challenger? Who is this guy? And you finally see there live, and you're just like, holy, like Hulk is in this movie. I would have just lost my mind. But we all knew this was coming because of the trailer. But I see why they did it, because the last two Thor movies didn't do that great. Well, they did okay, but you really had to sell this movie, right? So I get why they did it.
It's hard to keep that a secret too, because like we fans go on websites, we go on podcasts,
well,
like
CGI
this awesome
though, right?
one.
Because Hulk's, he's.
You'd have to hide Mark Ruffalo like showing up on set.
Yeah.
Like,
You could have... I agree with you, because you could have went more with that Loki was the crowd.
Yeah.
The unknowing crowd of who this champion is, because they tease them like the crowd or the audience doesn't actually know who the character is.
Right.
And in promo, could you have kept Hulk out of everything like they've done with Superman?
Right. It'd be tough.
It would be,
Yeah.
because that's a big selling point for this is Planet Hulk.
Exactly.
yeah.
Is that gladiatorial battle.
Yeah.
It would have been
would've
cool,
been- yeah.
but I don't know if you could have actually gone
It would have been damn near impossible to do.
Plus, he's on all the posters, so even
Yeah.
in the future, like 10 years down the road, when we forget about all this stuff, kids watching it for the first time are going to know that Hulk's in it. So I don't think it's possible to have that reveal.
No.
No, and yeah, it would have been great to experience it the same way Loki did in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's how that feels like. That was great.
That was
oh
great.
yeah, and he gets,
Yeah.
I gotta get off this planet.
Yeah.
I like that they've carried over that fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
really
And that
enjoyed
felt
it.
like Loki to me
Yeah.
right there too.
Yeah.
Did it bother you at all that because Loki had been there for 2 or 3 weeks that he probably should have known that the Hulk was the main contender?
You would think.
Yeah, you would think so. I guess it depends how often they have these battles. But yeah, you would think so, because
Was
they
it
seem
just
pretty
'cause,
close.
like the paper mache heads and the green
Yeah.
balls and all
Yeah.
this stuff.
The giant like apartment with the Hulk's face being built.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
a
and you had
tip
a
off.
good pull on
It
that.
was Beta Ray.
Beta Ray.
Yeah,
It
so
was,
Beta Ray,
eh?
Yeah. It's Beta Ray Bill. There's like 4 other different opponents on the that statue, or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
I heard Man Thing was in there.
Yeah, I heard that too. That there's, I didn't never caught Beta Ray Bill on that, but it very well could have been. And
Wow.
I think
probably
they
was.
said it. I think
it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So who is Beta Ray Bill?
He's basically like a horse Thor.
Yeah, like an alien horse that takes over the mantle of Thor.
Yeah, he
That's
gets his
all I need
own
to know?
hammer. I can't remember what it's called.
Can't- I-
Thunderstriker.
Get a
or
horseshoe.
something like that.
I can't remember. But I wish we got to see him. Yeah.
Does that imply that Beta Ray's dead though?
Oh, that he's lost. Oh shoot. Maybe he flew off like in the cartoon.
Hopefully.
Just flew away.
With Man Thing.
So after we get this big, great action sequence with gladiatorial Hulk and Thor, we move into a phase of the film where we start to integrate the Hulk a lot more. And we get this really nice scene where we do get a naked Hulk. But that's why it's not why it's nice. But it's this nice kind of enslavement scene where we're seeing Thor and Hulk kind of apologize to each other for calling each other the dumb Avenger or the tiny Avenger, or and the back and forth here again. I believe from Taika Waititi saying that it was all mostly ad-libbed here, but it's another great scene with Thor and Hulk. Some of the best interaction between characters in Avengers was Thor and Hulk.
Yep.
And they give him a bit of time here to play off each other, and Hulk seems almost to me like a kid. Like he's pouty like a kid. He's kind of stomping around, throwing shit around, and the whole idea of a talking Hulk was something that when I first saw the trailer, I was like, ooh, that's a big leap. That's a big leap. But the fact it's been 2 years and they kind of go into the depth and explanation once we get Banner about how he doesn't remember anything and how Hulk's actually taking the steering wheel of his life. I like that and I can accept that. I think that Hulk in here is probably one of the best iterations we've gotten, maybe with the exception of Avengers. but it's better than Age of Ultron. And I hope they carry this character, again, the shift in status quo, into Infinity War, the fact that he can communicate and talk, because I really like that aspect of it. And again, he plays a comedic role. He's not this just mindless beast running around. It's very, I wouldn't say that he's fully conscious of exactly what he's doing when he's enraged, but at the same time, he does have direction. And I like that. I like the shift, and then we're seeing an evolution of the Hulk.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it, is the evolution of Hulk, because I guess he's spent, 2 years as Hulk now, or Hulked out, and we mentioned before, we don't know how much time passes on Sakaar, so who knows how much time he's really been the Hulk. So it would make sense that his behavior would be something reminiscent of a kid, right? So I like that attention to detail there, and this is probably the best incarnation of Hulk we've had, but I do feel might have been slightly depowered.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he was as strong as the other Hulks we've seen for the most part, but I felt he was great. I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always thought, I was kind of confused. I thought Thor was going to get killed. Isn't that how you end the fights? That you kill the other person?
Yeah, it seemed like Grandmaster kind of switched it off.
Yeah.
To me, the way I interpret that was that he's got his champion in the Hulk, and he seemingly has another champion in the Lord of Thunder, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of rigged it so the Hulk would win, but that maybe he can keep both of these champions.
Who do you think would really win?
Who do you think would really win?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's a tough one.
It depends. Can either of them die?
Well,
Thor was taking a beating.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I think Thor has died before. In the comics, I think he's died.
Yeah.
I think everyone's died in the comics.
But
Pretty
he was
much.
he did that. He did the same thing that he did to Loki, and it barely phased Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at one point he's just punching him in the face,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to tell. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I'm
Seems
sure
like
they can
he's
die
doing-
because the Warriors 3 died.
True, but that was from
And
Hela.
Odin died.
Yeah.
Natural causes.
My money's on Hulk.
You think Hulk? I think Thor would win. He's
Yeah.
got a hammer. All
He's
he has to
not-
do is just put the hammer on Hulk's chest and he can't
He
get up.
doesn't have the hammer anymore. It's gone
At that
For
point.
now.
forever.
You think he's never going to get the hammer back?
No.
Wasn't
Really?
the promotional art though of Infinity
saw-
War
you
with
see-
Rocket and?
Yeah, you see Yarbjorn.
Oh yeah, the other one. Yeah.
big axe.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
he used. Well, it's not the exact same
Like the
thing. but-
Uru. It's the
yeah,
same,
it's the same idea, same concept. He used that when he was young Thor.
But an axe is a little bit more art. You can't have him hitting someone with an axe because he'd be chopping him to bits. You
You
need
need cannon fodder army. It's all good.
Oh, these rock dudes got hit by an axe.
What did you think of the explanation of how Hulk got to Sakaar? That was something that we questioned at the end of Age of Ultron as to whether or not who's just going to pull up on the joystick and fire off into space. I'd made the prediction that he was going to be captured by the Grandmaster or one of the scavengers to be actually brought to Sakaar. And you get a bit of that from Valkyrie, is that she's the one that brought him the champion. But did they spend enough time kind of explaining, or does it really matter that they never really addressed how we got all the way into Sakaar?
I don't think it really matters. It's just a minor plot point that I think they just glanced over because this is a tight film. I mean, stuff goes fast. You get the death of Odin and the introduction of the villain all within 30 seconds of each other. So they're hopping about, they're moving. This is a fast film. So I think they just kind of didn't care about it. So they kind of just ignored that. But yeah, I didn't think the Quinjets could fly in space. I guess they can. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like the X Jet or whatever it's called, the Blackbird or whatever.
Oh,
the X-Men.
right,
I know
right.
that holds it down. But yeah, no, it for the general audience, it didn't really matter. I think everybody got it. Okay, if you watched Age of Ultron and then you watch this, it kind of makes sense. But for us, hardcore fanboys, we wanted that whole Illuminati sequence.
Yes.
We
Right.
wanted
I think that's-
Iron Man and everybody to come together and Hulk had gone too far. We're sending him off. That's what we all wanted.
That's what it should have been.
And that's what it should have been.
After he destroyed that whole city
Yeah.
or whatever, they should have just said, enough's enough.
Yeah.
You got to get this nuclear bomb off this earth. And
Absolutely. Is a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah, they should
To
have
give us
done that. I don't know
goodies,
why
yeah.
they didn't do it. And they could have just retconned it either way. Oh, we captured him before he went too far, or he's gone off onto Sakaar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would have made a bit more sense to me. But again, it's the Quinjet in itself is used as a plot device because it allows Hulk to transform back into Bruce Banner with the lullaby from Black Widow. So that was a nice cameo that we got about the message she leaves him at the end of Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Now they integrated that in. Now that really seemed like it was on purpose, but that's just good writing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a way to get the Hulk back to Banner, because that's another really funny part about all this is when Thor's going around talking to him, trying to give him the lullaby, right? It's the sun is going down, and all this, and like rubbing his shoulders. Like, it's a lot of fun. And this brings in an extra element into the film, and that's Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Who, again, is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep saying this because he's another supporting character in this film that Hemsworth is able to riff with that just feels so organic and it feels perfect. Like, I love what they do with these two characters.
Yeah, it's great because we've never really had much of Thor and Mark Ruffalo Banner interaction. It's always been Hulk, the Beast, and Thor. So that was pretty cool. I do like the little, shout out to Tony Stark when he gives him the clothes. That's totally his
clothes are so tight.
Yeah. I love that. Thor's like, no, I love Banner more than Hulk. Numbers and stuff. Yeah, that was great.
Science.
Yeah.
It's lines like that. And maybe this is a great time because we haven't spent really any time talking about Hemsworth. We've mentioned him numerous times about how great his portrayal is. But to me, this Hemsworth, or the ability, or like I've said, taking off the handcuffs or the shackles or whatever and letting him just free reign across this makes his character 1,000 times better. And I never disliked Thor, but I freaking love this Thor now.
Oh, yeah. Before, Thor seemed kind of like a robot. He didn't really have a personality. He was kind of just pretty
Mopey
boy.
Thor.
Yeah, mopey Thor. Now he's got personality. But is he too much like Iron Man? A little bit?
I don't think so. I didn't really get an Iron Man vibe off of him.
Like, I don't know how he's written in the comics. You two will speak better to this.
Not
is he
like
more regal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He still speaks like
Shakespeare?
Yeah, Shakespearean. So I'm glad that they didn't bring that element into this. Yeah. And is your fear that they're making, like, you get like Hemsworth, Pratt, and Downey, and they're all kind of the same?
Ant-Man.
Yeah. I see. I don't see that. I never was once like, oh my God, this feels like Tony Stark.
Yeah, I never got that. I just got like this modern day Hercules kind of character, really.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I never really got the Tony Stark, but again, going back, like I said, like I do feel it's a little Michael Bendis like, where we are getting these jokes that are a little forced. And I'm like, like that's not really Thor. But this whole movie was just to retcon what we know or what we thought we knew about Thor and just change him up. Yeah.
Do you find that Hemsworth, the jokes in that don't land? Because I never had any issue with anything he was doing. Like,
His jokes worked for me. There's just moments where I'm just like, you don't need this joke.
The timing of it.
Yeah.
There was a couple, yeah. I think for me the two standouts are, this is out of order, but Hulk jumping off the ship and landing. It was like, oh, I saw this in Incredible Hulk, and him not transforming, and I thought it was funny, but I was like, I don't know if we really needed it at that time because we were trying to get serious. I don't know, maybe not. And when he throws the ball out the window and it bounces back and hit him, I laughed my ass off, and I wasn't expecting that. So maybe that was good, but it just threw me for a loop. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting a joke there. So maybe good on them for make me laugh. Yeah, those evil guys made me laugh.
Right.
I think the thing with Thor and with Hemsworth is that to me it all feels fresh. It doesn't feel like they're retreading anything they've done in the past, which is important because you're trying to recreate a character and kind of bring this new status quo to the forefront. And to me, everything lands. They deconstructed and redeveloped a character all in one film, which isn't easy to do. You're basically starting from 4 films worth of this character, and then you have to change him by the end and make audiences believe in that change and also get on board with this new character. And to me, it's all in Hemsworth's portrayal. His ability to improv across scenes with multiple different characters that are far superior than anything he's gotten before. To come back to Valkyrie here, as we move into this next phase of the film where he's convincing her and Loki that they need to essentially start this revolution and get off of planet and get back to Asgard to save it from Hela. And Valkyrie, she is the supporting female character, even more so than that. I think she has the potential to lead something down the road. Maybe not a film in itself, but become a bigger presence within the MCU.
Well, she's already confronted Kevin Feige, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Tessa Thompson. Yeah.
Put me in more shit, Kevin.
Basically.
We need more of that because she is what Lady Sif should have been. And we've been banging on about this idea of a strong female character that can land on the screen and be believable and just be a badass. Like, she needs to have that presence about her. And when she's on screen and when Tessa Thompson's on screen, it's all believable to me. I believe that she's this badass character. I'm not rolling my eyes like I was with Jane Foster, and she's not put to the background like Lady Sif was all these years. So to me, you take Hemsworth's just his innate ability to own the screen, and you line up all these other characters, Banner and Ruffalo and Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie. To me, everything shines across here. And as we continue to go through this, like, I think more and more as these characters interact, as we go into this revolutionary part, we have Korg and the gladiators and Thor and all that, and this whole action set piece with them kind of flying across Skahar and trying to get up the devil's anus. Like, it's all great, and it's a lot of rifting back and forth between characters, and then you got the Grandmaster in the background just being crazy. Like, it's really good.
Did that part remind you a little bit of Ghost in the Shell, where they had the holograms outside the
I
apartment?
haven't seen that film.
No.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, okay.
That one yet.
Well,
I heard
way
the
to leave me
podcast
hanging.
episode, but,
Yeah. Great podcast.
Yeah.
Solo Sunjay. I got other characters here that we'll hit on before we kind of get into the last phase of this film that we haven't really talked about much is Scourge and Heimdall. We're going to kick it off with Scourge here, played by Carl Urban of Star Trek fame.
Dread
fame, yes. So, what did you think of this character as a whole? Like,
I like how you gave me a shadow. I like how you mentioned my
Yeah,
name.
that's right.
Movie.
Troy.
Yes, Troy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned my daddy. You mentioned my name. So
Wow,
that's
look
kind
at
of cool.
that.
But yeah, you know, he wasn't bad. Nothing against him. I just feel like we got too much of the conflict going on between them. We could tell, okay, he doesn't really want to do this, but he's doing it, right? And we got too much in this movie of his facial expressions being like, you know, I shouldn't be doing this stuff. So that kind of got a little bit old for me. I do like how he got to have his grand finale there, and he went out there with the machine guns and took out the bad guys. But for the most part, I thought he was okay. I mean, he looked the part. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't a standout by any means. But they didn't really give him enough to chew on. I liked him actually earlier in the film, as opposed to later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was good. As you said, kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
Such a good actor. He's been in, as you said, Star Trek, and Dread is another great superhero film. So the guy can carry it. So kind of surprised that he had such a small role, but he did what he had to do with it, and I probably won't think of him again, and I won't miss him in Thor 4.
Did he die at the end of that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he did.
for
Okay.
sure.
I couldn't remember now. Because the one thing that we've been hammering here is that the cast is just far superior than any Thor film. He is the one, and I agree with you, that falls a little bit short. And it's not his fault.
Right.
It's the writing, to me, the development just isn't there. He never does enough to make that redemption feel like it's earned.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really kill anyone.
No.
He kind of wanders around with people and is in front of the army. He's called the Executioner, but he doesn't really execute anyone. So to me, he never commits those crimes or those atrocities to earn that redemption at the end of the film. He just kind of went along with the plot. And he had already seemed at the start of the film like he was a bit crooked anyways.
Yeah.
He seemed like he was one of Loki's boys and kind
Yeah.
of put him at the front where Heimdall was supposed to be after he pissed off.
Yeah.
So he always just seemed like a bit of an opportunist, and that it got carried away too far when Hela arrived.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that redemption and that earning that was never there.
Yeah.
And I would have appreciated a bit more of that character, or to just not have him in here. Like, Scourge is a good character, Executioner, along with Enchantress, right?
Right.
Those they come one and the same.
Exactly.
And so the fact that maybe we'll never see Enchantress with Scourge, with the Executioner, maybe is a bit of a letdown. But overall, his impact in the film is very, very minimal. He just is there for a redemptive arc, like I said, that isn't really earned.
Yeah.
But we have seen Enchantress.
Have we?
Oh yeah, we have.
Enchantress.
Unfortunately.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wrong
Maybe-
universe.
Maybe that's why they
That's the
didn't.
biggest eye roll you're going to get in this whole...
Maybe that's why they didn't put her in. Because isn't she
Maybe.
involved in Ragnarok? Like in the comics?
I'm sure she must be.
feel like
somehow.
she's a big bad.
Because she's in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and she's
Yeah.
the love interest for Thor in that, isn't
Yeah.
she?
I think she makes him fall in love with
Yeah.
her or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You just see Tim's face as soon as you mention the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad.
Oh.
Tim and Troy.
Whoa. Yeah. Come get your car washed over here. That's how I dance.
The worst.
Until another superhero film wins an Oscar, it's the last Oscar-winning superhero film.
This is true. Unfortunately.
I'm not even I didn't even think it should have won. Yeah, but just the fact that it won and seeing your guys' reactions just makes it that much better.
Yeah. Anyways, Heimdall. Last of the supporting cast we'll talk about. He was one of the standouts amongst the very few in the original Thor and Thor the Dark World as far as supporting cast. Him and Odin, I think, are the two standouts. we see both those characters picked up in this film to some degree. He gets a bit more to do in this film, but not as much as I thought he was going to get. He kind of leads around the people of Asgard because he's been playing on this for a good chunk of the film, that Asgard isn't a place, it's a people, and he seems to be the leader of the people. Throughout this, I was really banking on the fact that he was the soul gem.
Yeah.
And that's something that gets really never touched on at all.
No.
And I'm kind of surprised at that. I'm surprised we didn't get... I'm still sitting on that because he's on that ship.
Right.
Thanos has popped up.
Yes.
In front of,
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised we didn't get a Soul Stone in here, but I'm happy they veered away from that. I think the tone of this film doesn't support the idea of a Heimdall Infinity Stone reveal.
Right.
But overall, Heimdall for me was good, but not great.
Yeah.
I think that he's appropriate for the film. I like his look. I like him doing a bit more. I would have liked him doing kind of a next level Heimdall thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you fit that into this film, or if you could even do that.
Yeah.
You know, would they have been better to leave him off screen and just have him doing nothing? I guess you need that whole kind of, he's almost like a shepherd, right?
Yeah.
And leading the people to the promised land type thing. So
Right.
is he more of a Moses type character? I don't know, but
Yeah.
to me, he's good, but not great, as I kind of just said.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a missed opportunity. I wanted more. I feel like each Thor movie we're always like, that's Idris Elba, why aren't we getting more of him? And then
Right.
this movie, I think everybody thought we were going to get more of him, and we didn't really have that cool sword. I feel like he has so much hype around him, but we never really get to see him do much. You know, going to this movie, I was like, how come there's no Marvel Legend of that character? And now I'm like, oh, that's why there's no Marvel Legend of this
It's in here for
character.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, failed opportunity, but I do hope he still is that Infinity Stone. I doubt it. Speaking of Infinity Stones, though, I do like how they retcon
Oh, yeah.
Thanos'
The
glove.
Thanos'
I was just
glove,
like,
yeah.
that's a fake. That's genius.
Yeah, that's so good.
Crazy. Love that.
Yeah, when they go into Odin's vault there, I get the Tesseract,
Yeah.
the Casket of Ancient Winners. The gauntlet looked huge, though.
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah.
Just called it a fake. Oh man, that's great.
Yeah. I guess I give some scale as to how large Thanos is going to be in Infinity War.
Yeah, 8 to 10 feet, I think.
Okay. Because we see him in Guardians 1. Does he stand up?
No, he's never side by side a character for scale. He's always in that
sitting.
big chair.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got hemorrhoids. Sitting there for that long on a rock chair?
Maybe. No experience on this end, so I don't know. Okay, guys. Well, we've cracked through the majority of this movie here, and as we move into the final phase here, we've seen Hela battling it out numerous times here, and it's interesting that you mentioned earlier on, Sunjay, about her being, or we're losing her for long stretches of time, because I feel like this review reflects that, because we've gone long stretches of time and not talked about the main villain here. And I want to circle back before we get into the last battle here about her overall appearance. We never really talked about the horns and all that, and how she kind of brushes her hair
Love
back,
that.
and also kind of readjusting or recalibrating her motivations as she's built this. She's kind of told a few of the stories. She's awoken this army that is very reminiscent of Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King, I think.
Oh, okay,
that
yeah.
Ghost Army or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got this dog, this Fenris thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that Hulk's son? I read somewhere in the
No,
comics.
his son's like Skahar.
Yeah, his son's called Scar.
I heard that Hulk's kid was a wolf somehow.
Don't know. Don't remember that.
Never heard
Fenris,
that one.
this wolf is in the comics.
Okay.
Yeah.
It gives the Hulk something to do
Should have been
later
a
on.
poodle.
But Hela, are you guys still happy with the portrayal, with the character's inclusion in the film as we get to this last fight sequence? We actually see her finally fighting Loki and Thor and Valkyrie and all that.
Yeah, it was a cool fight. I thought she would still be a little more powerful. I mean, when we see her take on the whole army of Asgard, which was one of my favorite scenes of the movie, I was like, you can't stop this person.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
No way.
That's an intense
no
fight
way.
scene.
Yeah,
They're
that's
chucking
great.
those knives that just come out
Yeah.
of nowhere.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way Thor's going to stop this person.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Thor necessarily got stronger. I mean, I don't know what he necessarily did to get stronger from the beginning of this film,
The sparkles.
except for the sparkles.
He turned
right?
into Raiden.
Except, yeah, yeah, Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
So except for him learning how to, hone his skills with the lightning, and it's far better looking lightning now. I don't really get that. So it was cool. It's a good fight scene though. All in all, I loved every fight scene in this film.
But yeah, I totally agree. But I didn't get, okay, so Thor defeats Surtur in 5 minutes. Hela defeats Thor in 5 minutes. Yet somehow Surtur takes out Hela.
Yes.
I think it's
Right.
because the uniting of his skull or whatever, the crown thing,
Yeah.
with the eternal flame makes him
Oh,
Surtur proper.
kind of like Genie from Aladdin, where he's like all big and powerful.
We'll call it that.
Like Jafar at
That's
the
the
end.
leap you want. But I think that's the connection piece that Surtur, because he had said that at the start. When I unite this crown with the eternal flame, I will destroy Asgard. And that's when Thor's like, "Oh, you need that thing. I'm going to take it."
Right.
Okay,
He comes
see, I
back-
missed that.
Yeah, so that's why Loki kind of scoots off at the end and unites it with and dumps it in that flame box there.
Do you think Loki took the
100%.
Tesseract?
100%. Yeah, because that's why Thanos is gonna stop that ship.
He's just gonna hand it over to him?
So there's the Tesseract, but there's also Heimdall on the ship.
Oh,
That's two stones,
Two
possibly.
stones.
one bird. No, wait, that's
So-
the opposite of the saying.
So this Sunjay, it's only 9:30.
But it's really 10:30 because we moved the clocks back.
No, you can't think like that. That's not how daylight saving works. You should be less tired.
You'd think.
Yeah, you get an extra hour of sleep.
You'd think.
No, you don't. We never. All parents. Anyways, let's crack this through this last fight sequence here. We get a lot of moving parts here. We've got Loki playing the anti-hero here, coming back after betraying Thor again and being left basically for the Grandmaster to take and do with what he pleases. He got Korg and the crew showing up, which I think is great, kind of rescuing the Asgardians. And then you've got Thor fighting Hela. Kind of a one-on-one combat thing going on here in the throne room. He loses an eye,
Yeah.
which is really cool because in the trailer, they've CGI'd over that
Completely.
to not reveal that spoiler.
Yeah.
Didn't look like it, yeah.
No, you can see where they've done it in the trailer after knowing, like,
Right.
it's basically like they just put a blue thing over his eye because you can still see the scar.
Yeah.
underneath.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it makes no sense. It's kind of a cool evolution because you've seen this in the comic books with old Thor. He's got the eye patch, he's got the missing arm.
Yeah.
This is the first step to him becoming a bit more like Odin.
Yeah.
And I think it's a cool step and it's a cool change to the character. You're looking at this huge appearance change just with the hair, but now he's got an eye patch, which is going to carry through into Infinity War. Not going to do any weird retconning like it's like, oh, we found an eyeball.
That's what I was wondering because, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
It's not in the poster. Like,
Yeah, it's
it
on the
seems
poster, and I can't remember if it's the other thing. But I don't know. That's cool. I think it's too soon. I don't want Thor to have only one eye right now. I mean, I'm glad they committed because I'm always talking about the stakes in these films. They need to kill people. They
Yeah.
did that. They need to damage the character. They did that. They need to destroy their home world. Well, they did that. But the eye patch, I'm just like, whoa, that's a big step.
Yeah.
It's a big step. So we'll see how they rock that for how long, especially if they want to do like another 2 movies off of this now. Because I feel after the success of this movie, we might get
new trilogy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we
this
might get
is
2
Thor
more.
1.
Thor, yeah, I
think we
agree.
might get 2 more.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
we'll see how long they rock that eye patch. Pirate Thor.
Johnny Depp will come and play him.
Oh, man.
Horrible.
Yeah.
They're both at the House of Mouse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, true. So, as this movie comes to conclusion, we've got Loki dropping Surtur's crown into the Eternal Flame or whatever, and Surtur, or they've made this realization that they need to not stop Ragnarok, they need to more or less encourage it or incite it. And so they release Surtur onto Asgard. He subsequently destroys it, taking Hela with it, because Hela draws her power from Asgard. So this is a big decision, and this again completes that overall deconstruction of Thor by removing and destroying Asgard, kind of the basis for the entire Asgardian race, for the Thor mythology and all that. So it's a bold move. I really didn't think they were going to go there, but I'm glad they did. This is something we've seen in the comics, that Asgard ends up over Illinois or Ohio or something like that, ends up on Earth, and that's kind of teased at the end of this when they're deciding where to go. So did you think that as we close out here, as we get Surtur finally appearing in a Ragnarok film and Ragnarok being enacted on Asgard, do you feel like this is a suitable ending for Hela, for the film, and for Surtur being actually inserted back into this film? Do you think overall that the narrative has driven us to this point where we've come full circle with Odin having this vision, or Thor having this vision of Odin and kind of realizing his power set, with Surtur coming back, enacting Ragnarok, and Hela effectively dying? Do you think this wraps it up nicely?
I think so. This is a cool choice, as opposed to all these other movies, how the big bad takes on this superhero and the superhero gets all beefed up and powerful. Well, I guess that kind of does happen. He does get beefed up and more powerful. But I do like how they kind of twisted things and, they let basically Surtur run its course to save the day. So I thought that was cool. And I don't think Hela's dead at all. I'm sure she's still kicking around. I just, she's the god of death, and then you have Thanos who's obsessed with death. I just
They-
think you got to put those two
yeah.
together.
They really made a point of saying that numerous times.
Yes.
That she's the goddess of death.
Yes.
They could have gotten away saying she's just Hela.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
that in itself implies a lot
Exactly.
as far as the character.
Yeah.
But the fact that they had to give her a title,
Yeah.
I think you're right there. There's something a bit more there. And can you kill the goddess of death? I
Right.
don't know.
And it's Kate Blanchett playing her. I mean, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, she was hella good.
Sunjay, what are your thoughts about how this film wraps up?
I thought it wraps up a nice, neat little bow. It's kind of interesting because now you have these kind of refugees in a way, Asgard. It kind of reminded me of in the X-Men cartoon when you had Magneto create that Asteroid X,
Yeah.
and he just had like the mutants going around. I
Love
mean,
that.
That Thor 4 could be something really cool, something really topical in today's day and age, where you have this race of Asgardians trying to find a home, and the whole Earth trying to decide, should we let them in? What are we going to do? We don't know who these people are. So that could set up a wonderful Thor 4, but I don't think they're going to go that way. I don't think they do something that serious. So I don't know. I'll have to wait and see, but I think Thor 4 is set up right there. Just take that, and kind of like at the end of Man of Steel, where you address the carnage of Metropolis, take that and run with it. But knowing the director and what I've seen from this film, I don't think you could take a comedy and make that like a political movie.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to stay away from
Topical.
that. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting actually, because I forgot. I think it's Spider-Man: Homecoming, right? We find there's a church where they believe in like, the Asgardians, right? Wasn't it?
Church
Yeah, Church of
Asgard.
Asgard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it would actually be kind of interesting if the Asgardians do end up, migrating to Earth.
So are all Asgardians stronger than humans, or is it just Thor and the warriors that we see that appear stronger? Like, could a normal like farmer Asgardian whoop Iron Man's ass?
Well, that's an interesting thing because we haven't seen much of the civilian population,
No.
right? We always just assumed that Asgard was a city or a country or whatever, a planet of warriors, kind of like Sparta.
Right.
That's kind of how I always envisioned Asgard.
Yeah.
But it seems like, and this is the first instance where we're really getting more of the civilians, right? And I don't know. I don't know if they're more godlike or if they live for 5,000 years and
Right.
the actual gods or royalty or whatever live for longer. I don't know. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Something I have to flesh out in Thor 4.
Yeah.
But this movie concludes after the big fight scene with a mid-credit scene. Thor is established as the king of Asgard, the new king of Asgard. He's flanked by his Revengers in Tessa Thompson, Hulk, Heimdall, and Loki, who is apparently now an anti-hero, a good guy, if you want to call him that. And in front of them, as they're deciding where to go, what could go wrong, up comes a ship. Now, it's been clarified by Kevin Feige that this is called the Sanctuary 2. Sanctuary 1, or the Sanctuary being the rock asteroid thing that he sits on. And so it's a ship. So when it first came up, you guys both looked at me and they said, "Tim, what's that?"
Yeah.
I said, to be honest with you, it looks like a Chitauri ship.
Right.
Chitauri.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it just had almost looked like the face of a Chitauri.
Okay.
And whether that's on purpose or not, maybe not, probably not. But it is Thanos' flagship. So we do have Thor and Loki coming face to face with Thanos at the start of Infinity War. And hopefully our heroes can make it out. I'm sure they will, because we know Thor exists in this universe beyond the start of Avengers Infinity War. So I'm looking forward to it. I like the tease for Infinity War. Like I said, I'm a bit shocked we didn't get any Infinity Gauntlet, or Infinity Stones. But at the same time, this film was great. It didn't have really a main MacGuffin, which I liked. They weren't chasing anything. They were kind of, but not really. And overall, I think this film concludes the way it needs to. It concludes on that note of Avengers Infinity War, which is going to be we got one more film, Black Panther, in between this and Infinity War next May. So overall, fantastic stuff. I loved how this film ended. Let's get into our recommendations. Troy, Sunjay, do you guys recommend Thor Ragnarok?
Oh, hands down. Definitely gotta go see this movie. You can skip Dark World, like I mentioned before, and you can definitely go check out this film in theaters right now. Yeah, I love this film. It was great. I can't really say too many bad things about it. It's not my favorite MCU movie. I think I made that pretty clear. Spidey and Winter Soldier and Civil War hold it down for me in my top 3 spot, and then I'd still have to think about where I place this guy. So out of the MCU films of this year, though, it's my number 2 for sure. Going Spidey, Thor, Ragnarok, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Yeah, so go out there and check it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Recommend this movie. How could you not? No matter what, you'll go into this movie and have a good time. And so, in that regard, even if there's some little nitpicks that I had here or there, overall, I came out of the film smiling, having a good time. You know, it's a great popcorn flick, great rewatchability. I could see this playing on TVs for here until infinity.
Yeah. or
Ooh, hopefully. And yeah, where I rank it in the MCU, yeah, I'd say top 10. I mean, after going through this review, I haven't changed it. I definitely would put like Homecoming, Civil War, Winter Soldier, First Avengers, Iron Man, maybe Guardians 1. So, you know, maybe top 7, which is pretty good. It's just when you go through that list, you just realize, wow, MCU has so many hits
Right.
that
Yeah.
if this was any other franchise, this would be like 1, 2, but that's not a knock on DC. So in case you're wondering. So yeah, totally agree. Great movie. You'll have a lot of fun. You'll be smiling. Go and enjoy it. Just take it for what it is. Do what I did. You know, even if you prefer the more serious movies, just don't be an old curmudgeon like me and just enjoy this.
Oh, come on, man. You're very positive throughout this review here. And I'm right there along with you guys. I'm going to echo your thoughts on the recommendation. Of course, this is a high recommend for me. This is rattling around there within the top 5, top 7 for me MCU films. I had a genuinely good time in this film, an absolute blast with a lot of literal laugh out loud moments, which for me is very, not rare, but I was laughing almost this whole movie, which I really, really liked. And for me, this movie is a film with personality. It really takes apart the stuff we didn't like about Thor and reconstructs it into something that I think is fantastic and deserves numerous iterations or follow-up on this character beyond Avengers Infinity War. The cinematography is great. The color palettes, the supporting cast is probably amongst the best in the MCU that we've seen in a long time. And the score, we didn't really touch much on that. It's a really
Fantastic.
odd score that is great. A lot of 80s, a lot of just weird notes that fit the film. It fit what they were trying to bring to the screen. And overall, I like the idea that this film feels entirely organic. Nothing feels forced to me. And I think that is a real credit to the director. It's a real credit to the actors, particularly Hemsworth, Ruffalo, and Taika Waititi. They're 3 of my favorite characters in this film. And overall, this is amongst the best. This deserves the hype it's got behind it. And I'd say get out there, check this out in IMAX or the big screen AVX or whatever. Experience this movie in theaters because on a screen, it's going to come across well no matter what. But I think it deserves to be seen on the big screen. It deserves to be seen amongst a crowd of people that are laughing with you.
Absolutely.
So overall, that's 3 recommends from the Nerd Room here.
Whoa. We almost forgot the Star Wars reference. Did you see the Stormtrooper helmet?
Oh yeah,
I did not
that's
see it.
right.
Yeah.
it looked pretty much like if you saw it, you would first thing you would think of is a Stormtrooper's helmet. Yeah, the white one. Yeah, that's right.
I picked it up and Tim didn't.
Yeah,
No,
I know.
I
And
didn't
Courtney looked at us too. He was like, "Is that Stormtrooper helmet?"
I was like, man, your wife is such a nerd. Troy."
Yeah.
It makes me love it even
Change the
more.
world.
This is
Yeah.
I recommend this is now number 1 in the no. Civil War I did have a Star Wars reference too. So,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
so did
nice one.
Homecoming.
Yeah. And so did Home. Yeah. There
Lots
we
of
go.
Star Wars,
There we go.
It's
Bring it back
almost as
around.
if Disney owns both Star Wars and Marvel.
You'd think so, maybe.
But no company would cross promote like that.
Never. All right, guys, that wraps it up for Thor Ragnarok. It's been an absolute pleasure sitting here and reviewing for the last couple of weeks Thor films. And
Yeah.
next week, we're going to get back to our regular scheduled program because we have a lot of nerd news to catch up on. In the past few weeks, we've seen a new trailer drop. I just got a cramp.
I got a cramp. Sounds like a good movie.
Yeah. Have you seen that one before? I wonder
of
who's in it. You have to leave that in.
100% going to, but that was weird.
Do you want Troy to
Damn
rub?
good trailer.
Do you want Troy to rub it out for you?
Oh, the hammer pulled you off.
Troy, how about the man?
We've got
Rub him out.
I get it. We've got a fantastic trailer that I tried not to watch, but ended up watching on mute for Star Wars The Last Jedi. Fox is being bought out by Disney.
Potentially.
Potentially, maybe. Brian Michael Bendis has crossed over to the world of DC.
Woo!
So there's a lot to talk about that we will get to next week, including our Justice League preview. We're getting ready to switch gears over to Justice League, over to DC for the debut of that film in a couple weeks here. We're going to be seeing opening night and subsequently reviewing it the following week. So November is going to be a big review month. December is going to be the month of Star Wars, so look out for that. We've got a lot of exciting things as we ramp up for our 100th episode that will be dropping, I believe, either the last week of December or the first week of January. So coming up on that milestone. And while we're talking about episode 100, again, another shout out to the boys over at Tumbling Saber that just celebrated and just dropped their 100th episode. So congratulations to you guys. Make sure to go check that out. It's a lot of fun. I just listened to it today. And the Commonwealth, everyone is firing on all cylinders. Make sure to go check out the whole crew over there. Everyone is producing a ton of content and really superior stuff. So make sure to go check out everyone over at the Star Wars Commonwealth. And that being said, guys, I think it's time for us to end here because we are ramping up almost on 2 hours for this review. And this is one of our longest reviews ever. But I think it's justified for a film of this magnitude, of this scale, that really does a lot for the character of Thor. All right, well, if you guys would like to be a part of the show, you can always email us at thenerdrm@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter. Our handles are at the end of the episode. As always, you can always comment on our YouTube or Facebook pages, and you can always hit us up at thenerdroom.net, where there are articles there that elaborate a bit more on the topics we cover here on the podcast, as well as topics that we don't quite have the time to get to. So make sure to go check out some of that stuff over there. Well, gentlemen, like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to more discussion of the MCU and then changing gears over into DC, and then always following up with that beautiful franchise of Star Wars. We got a lot of big things coming here in the next couple months, and The Last Jedi is the top of my mind now that we've gotten through Thor Ragnarok. Yes, above Justice League.
Really? You put Last Jedi above Justice League?
I did indeed. I noticed when I looked back at our most anticipated films that The Last Jedi is not on your top 10 for the year.
Well, it's the last film, so it's The Last Jedi.
That was a strange link there. I think it's time we sign off here. You're looking pretty tired.
Yeah, I'm battling something here.
That's great.
I don't know what I got. I'm just going to cough on the microphone, so when you guys listen to this, you also get sick.
That makes no sense. We're going to sign off here before Sunjay really goes down a dark hole here. Until next week.
There's so many ways I can take that, but I'm just going to leave that.
Yes, devil's anus. Until next week, for the Nerd Room, I'm Tim.
I'm Troy.
And Sunjay.
And thank you for entering what has now become a very strange nerd room.
Yeah, contaminated room.
This has been a Nerd Room Podcast production. You can find our hosts, Tim, Troy, and Sunjay on Twitter at TheNerdRM, TroyTheBoy87, and Sunjabby. For more content from the Nerd Room, check out thenerdroom.net. And don't forget to subscribe to the Nerd Room on iTunes, Podbean, and YouTube. Be sure to head over to StarWarsCommonwealth.com to find more podcasts in the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, including Talk Star Wars, Tumbling Saber, Generation X-Wing, Rogue Squadron Podcast, Skyros Podcast, and San Diego Sabres. Follow the Star Wars Commonwealth on Twitter at SW Commonwealth and take your first steps into a larger world.